Hey, Facebook just fucking killed our live video. Don't know what that was about.
It's paid off by Big Lark.
Big, yeah. So we're just gonna take the first like 30 seconds of this video and dick around for a minute while we wait for people to come back. We were at like 17 to 20 people were watching that. That was good. That was good stuff. Okay, those of you who just tuned in and are making weird noises at the camera, Facebook killed our last live stream. I think we may have actually gone too long. Whoops. So yeah, if that happens again, just wait like 30 seconds and I'll put another video up. So we were about to talk about Baruha.
Yes. So I'm gonna deviate a little bit from our previous format because all three of the Bruja merits are worth discussing, and quite a few of them are worth discussing together. So I'm going to summarize each of the Bruja powers, and then we'll talk about them.
First, Bruja are neat. They got really cool. They were always good. They got really cool in this book. Bruja do not give a fuck, and they might take yours. Jacob.
So, Breaking Point as a level 1 merit. This is one of BNS's understandable but somewhat regrettable patterns of copy pasting powers from other books.
Other books in their own system.
Yes.
We're not accusing them of plagiarism, just reused mechanics.
Reusing their own material.
Which is understandable, but it can be.
I get it. It occasionally gets.
Especially when it's like I didn't like the original power.
Red in Tooth and Claw from the Red Talons. When you are in frenzy and succeed in an opposed challenge using your melee or brawl skill,
Found a reason why not to pretend not the frenzy.
Stop talking.
Anyway,
you succeed in an opposed challenge using your melee or brawl skill. Your success is an exceptional success, not a normal success. You might note this as somewhat of a big deal.
I killed an Inferno with that mechanic.
Off of the top of my head, I can't think of any 1-dot Bruja merits. So either there are none or there are none worth mentioning.
Brotherhood.
2-dot merit. I think
was
Brotherhood is 2-dot.
Yeah, was Scourge of Electo? No, that was 3.
Scourge of Electo is 3.
Burning Wrath was 1.
No, Burning Wrath is 2. It's definitely 2.
They might just have multiple 2-dot merits.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit confusing.
Is can you take both from that?
Volume 1 did not stick to a 1-dot, 2-dot, 3-dot system. So there are going to be some times where a clan can buy a 1-dot merit from Volume 2 that does not rule out a merit from their core book. And there are going to be some clans like the Bruja where taking a 2-dot merit rules out multiple merits from the core book. We'll deal with it.
Yeah, that's something that I think just comes of this book. Like, this book is good. There are a lot of things in this book that I think were kind of decisions made kind of at the buzzer. And so there are some spots that, it's a beta, and it's going to read like a beta until it's not a beta anymore. So that was the first one. Did you read it?
Yes. Cool. Second one, Iron Heart. Anytime you are going to spend willpower to retest Dominate Presence or any other power that seeks to compel your behavior. Path of Corruption is called out, but that's most of the mental social powers. When you retest, you do not lose a willpower. This is coming up in a couple of places. Willpower is becoming a lot less of a valued commodity as we get more ways to not spend it or to get it back. But very specially, in addition, if a Bruja assists defenders or assists attackers, the person that they assist gets the benefit of this merit for the rest of the turn. Not going to comment until I finish reading them, but just say it again. Any power to resist your behavior, don't lose a willpower. Retesting it can be shared through assisting. You may, and this is a special mechanic, if I dominate Joe here, Shannon is allowed to assist defend him from that dominate just to give him this benefit. He is still targeted by the dominate. No other benefit comes from the assist defender, but he has gained that retest for free.
We're verging on narrative.
And 3-point merit Fervent Iconoclast. Iconoclast. Basically a weaker form of Tyrant's Gaze. When I land an exceptional success in a physical attack, I may remove one of the active powers benefiting my target, and they will be unable to activate or benefit from that effect for the next 10 minutes, with the following important limitations.
Quid pro quos, provisos.
It may not be, to use Volume 2's excellently precise language, either a minor or major transformative power. I cannot punch you out of hard form. I cannot punch you out of having Protean 2 claws. It also must be a power that is currently active. I cannot punch you out of having Tyrant's Gaze. I may, however, punch you out of having Adaptive Fortitude. I may punch you out of having Valerian 3. I may punch you out of having Heightened Senses.
You could also do Siren's Beckoning. Or Eye of the Serpent.
Various powers that you are maintaining in order to control a room full of schmucks.
It's one of those. It's the language here has to be kind of tricky, just because it's covering a class of powers that is easily understood but not easily described. So it's ending active powers which are not transformative and also are not turn activated.
So, Joe, give us your feelings.
Also, off-piece gate. You can end that.
Yeah, which we'll get into that. That requires another mechanic we haven't talked about yet. So, Holy Mother of Fuck. I wasn't joking. I mentioned I killed an Incarna with that mechanic. I built a lot of Hunts the Broken Sheet, the character I played in Apocalypse, was built around the I always crit you when I hit you. And all of the cool powers, they're like, well, this goes off on a crit. And everyone's like, well, I'm not going to crit nothing. Oh, yeah. I'm bringing up comments because there's a lot of y'all fuckers. But yeah, so like, I did a lot of really bad things to good people with that mechanic. And when they introduced it for the Bruja, particularly with some stuff you're going to learn about in a little while, Bruja are nasty. They were always good. Now they are nasty. When you're swinging and you're like, hey, I don't really care. I'm going to crit you over and over again because you're a Bruja. Like the one thing you kind of had going for you was that with a single transformative, you're winning ties. You didn't have anything super special. You weren't the clan that does the cool trick. You were the clan that does punching in the face really effectively. And now you do it like crazy effectively. Bruja will beat you to death on their way to get coffee. It's awesome. This is one of the places in this book where I kind of worry it might be too awesome. I will say it's a question. It's going to be a question of luminary powers. You know, because this is one of the first things we see here. We're just flat out. This power level is getting ramped the whole fuck up. Yeah, it's nasty. It really, really is. I like the power set. I think there's a lot of really cool things being said about the Bruja. I like the fact that to do all of these cool things, you're investing a lot of merits in them. So it's good. If you spend 5 merits on something, you should be fucking amazing at it. But it definitely, like, this is one of those places where you see power creep, you're like, whoa, power is not creeping so much as just sprinting up the mountain.
Shannon, your thoughts?
So, for the one dot specifically, it is a little bit weird, personally, because it is replacing Valerian 5, except they can't downgrade.
Well,
Hang on.
remember that you still have to win the chop. Valerian 5 is we don't chop, we do not compare traits, we do not do anything.
You're just
I
getting
just
to win. Yeah.
In this case, it's if I win the chop outright, I always get an exceptional success regardless of traits. And if we tie and I win on traits, it's an exceptional success. It's still very good. I don't want it to sound like I'm discounting it. But Valerian 5 is definitely better.
Okay. So what else you got on that?
Then I guess it's kind of better than the Quietus BBT thing where you just have so many points towards exceptionals that you most likely, unless you're fighting a demigod, going to crit them.
And in the quietest case, you do still have to win the chop outright.
Yeah, which is so it's a little bit better than
It definitely
for 1 merit point. So it is a big thing.
It definitely changes the Brujah into the highest DPS clan, which was kind of, they were tied for that with some other people. There were people who had more raw damage, like burst damage, but in straight DPS, the Brujah are pretty much the kings now, which isn't bad. Like, that's a good thing. The Brujah are the militant arm of 2 of the 3 major sects. It's important for them to be able to hit people really hard in the face.
And on that, it did always kind of feel like the Brujah were always good at combat, but it kind of felt like their ceiling was a little bit lower than a couple of other clans.
You get that a lot when you talk about the Transformers.
The Brujah did not have an inherent transformative power. They had 2 of the 3 in-clan physical powers, and that was huge. And they had Burning Wrath for a bonus and aggravated damage without having to buy a discipline. And that got them started off really fast. And then low XP, Brujah own combat. No one else comes close. But when you get into the higher XP game, they can start to suffer.
I'm going to have to interject there. I think at a low XP, Brujah run the show because they get there very quickly. I think at a medium range XP, which is I think what most people are describing when they talk about higher XP, I think Brujah lose because they don't have the in-clan transformative, so their immediate ceiling is lower. Once you start creeping into those 600, 650, 700 XP, and all we're talking about all day are merits, that's why my biggest straight thug of all time was a Brujah, because their actual full cap is actually is higher than almost anyone else's.
You're right. When you actually talk about high XP, you are assuming that anyone can have any common discipline they want and at least 2 rare disciplines, and then it's merits that make all the difference. And having an inherent +2 is the only thing that matters. So I'll go ahead and give my thoughts pretty quickly. Yep. I agree with everything that's been said. I will point out, just because I don't know if we stressed this connection, that that the level 1 merit and the level 3 merit here have incredible affinity, where you get into frenzy, whether natural or through Animalism 5, or the benefits of Valerian 4 is going to be a difficult statement to parse in terms of is qualifying for a merit a benefit. I can see arguments in both directions. I haven't actually sat down and made either of them, but that will be a conversation that the community has to have. But if a Brujah is in a qualifying frenzy, every success they land is an exceptional success, and therefore every hit that they make is stripping away a power. And just very quick in response to a question, I would argue that Fortitude 5 qualifies as an active power. It is a power whose effects are always active.
It is not a power you have activated. It is a power which is always active.
So I absolutely concur. This has been a very big buff to the Brujah, but I do not think it is an unbalancing buff. The Brujah are meant to dominate the stage of physical combat. This is something that makes them excel at combat, makes them very good at not just dealing a lot of damage very fast, but allows them to engage in a level of strategy with their opponents. I really enjoy that. I like that part of the game.
All right, cool.
Do we have any last thoughts on Brujah?
I love them. They're my babies. I love Brujah. I love them so goddamn much. And I said that I thought it might be too good. I'm not sorry. I am going to hit someone for 7 ag over and over again in the face in the very near future. We'll talk about how in a minute.
Let's talk about the true Brujah.
The True Ha! I wish we had that like horn.
They sucked. They just sucked.
They were so bad.
Temporis was a power that was only good out of clan. The Truha did the only in clans of the Truha were Temporis, Potens, and Presence, which means if you weren't buying out of clan, the saddest thing in the universe was a 9th gen True Bruja, because they spent 1 blood on activating a Presence power. They spent 1 blood on activating Temporis.
They couldn't afford to use Presence and Celerity. They had the powers. But if they were 9th gen, they couldn't use it.
You're paying an exorbitant merit cost. Pretty much every set has a reason to murder you. And
they can't afford it. That's vitality.
It's so the writers went in knowing that they had to give people some kind of reason to play a True Bruja. And we've got a couple here. Let's see. So for every Temporis power you possess, add a +1 wildcard bonus to your initiative. I'm going to go ahead and start here. This is a power that I was afraid was going to be in this book, and then I ended up glad it was. Because they started with a preview that Temporis would be able to give a dodge bonus to Celerity, to your dodge. It would give you a +5 to your dodge. I just fucked that.
Temporis, good dodge.
So, the conversation between Celerity and Temporis has been one that's fascinated me, because it's a very difficult choice to make. You may either buy dots of Celerity or dots of Temporis. Never shall the two meet. And buying Celerity means an initiative bonus, rounds bonus, movement bonus, bonus to avoiding ranged combat and to engaging in ranged combat, and a massive bonus to your initiative. Temporis means that you are the scariest, deadliest motherfucker to throw around mental and social disciplines in the goddamn game. And it comes around with extra rounds, not as many as Celerity, and it comes with enough movement that you can match a Celerity user with movement. But there were go ahead, Shannon. And other funny, cool bonuses that don't really match up.
I've seen that used once, and that was to get a telescope.
Temporis is a 45x or a 60 XP 1-dot discipline, is really what it boils down.
And that was a problem. I had a lot of mental social characters who would have liked Temporis, but if I was being honest with myself, it was better for them to buy Celerity. Giving Temporis an initiative buff is bad if you do it in general, because you are taking away the very careful decision that buying Temporis has to be. Getting a rare discipline should not just be a raw power-up. It should be a careful decision that you make for specific purposes. So they didn't do that. They said, hey, a guiding principle of this game has been that people who own a discipline should be better at that discipline than anyone else. And the Truha are better at Temporis than anyone else, in the same way the Nosferatu are better than Obfuscate. And that is fantastic. Joe?
Shannon, do you want to say anything on it first?
Not really. I don't think too much about the Truha.
That's fair.
Honestly.
So I will go ahead and confess my bias. I fucking hate Temporis. I hate that power. I hate it all day and twice on Sunday, because most of the time, almost all the time, a sheet with Temporis is better with Celerity. In the core book, Temporis does one thing for you. Well, two things. The simple action is actually really good. That's very useful. So it gives you 6 extra steps you can take whenever you want, and it gives you mental and social in one of your Celerity actions. That's amazing. That, like, I need you to stop and think. Tyrant's Gaze and Mass Manipulate is such an incredibly good power. It's all I think about when I go into a fight. If you're like, oh, I have this great combat belt, I don't care. Who's your Tyrant's Gaze guy? I don't give a shit about anything else in that fight until TGMM is down. Temporis means you do it twice.
12 people or 6 people for 2 powers.
You can, as a good elder with maxed out fortitude, you can take down an entire crowd of 9th gens. You just take away their top 2 powers of potence. They can't hurt you now. That's impossibly fucking good. So I don't like Temporis for that reason. And understand, the application I just gave you sounds really good. It was the worst application of that I could think of off the top of my head. Doing shit like mass manipulate twice makes you unbeatable if you're smart. It's crazy good. And I hate that. I hate any power that I think is so good, you have to have it or you have to plan against it. It's my biggest problem with Dominate. I think Dominate is just too goddamn good. It makes my heart happy, but it's too goddamn good. I've written several sheets just around trying not to get dominated. And so because of that, I hated Temporis. And I gotta be honest, any buff Temporis gets, I'm like, fuck you. But what I'll say is that what's kind of cool about this is that by making Temporis good in more places, it means that if someone uses Temporis in front of me, I don't immediately jump to, fuck, we're all dead. Now when someone uses Temporis, I'm like, okay, might be dead, might not be dead. Which is what I already thought going into the combat, so I'm fine with that. That doesn't upset me, right? I know that there are these god tier builds of Temporis out there, but there are a lot more god tier builds of Celerity out there. And so my problem with Temporis has always been, if I get into a fight and you use Temporis, this fight is now about Temporis. It's not about anybody else.
One of the big problems that has arisen in BNS Masquerade is that for rare disciplines, if they show up, you know that either you're about to win the fight or they are using one of the 3 pre-approved builds that will work and possibly beat you. And adding more options to what Temporis is capable of doing is only ever going to make it a more interesting part of the game.
Hang on, because I just led to a point. One last thing to address before we move on. We really need to start moving faster.
Yeah.
I really like not knowing what's on your sheet. Haley's in the background. What I mean by that is, I've done it a couple of times, usually as a party trick, but in a combat with someone, we'll go through one round of combat. They'll just do their normal stuff, and then I'll just tell them everything that's on their character sheet.
There are outside cats that might be still.
Sorry,
That doesn't sound like
we have a cat situation.
Got a diabetic cat on my hand.
Diabetic cats in this. Anyway, point is, I don't like being able to reverse engineer your sheet at a glance. That's really boring for me in a combat. It's really boring for you in a combat. It's not fun. And so the thing that I like the most about this book is that there are a lot of hard choices in it. And when you use a power, I'll be like, okay, you could be going a lot of directions with this. And Temporis best evokes that concept. Just flat out.
Okay.
Haley Ruth says hi.
Joe was right. We're moving a little slow, so I'm going to point out borrowed
She
time.
didn't say hi back.
Because I don't think any of us have anything to say other than this is cool.
Oh, yeah.
Which is once an hour, you're allowed to interrupt an action. Someone declares what their action is, and you say, actually, I have an action to take before that. So Joe says, I'm going to hit Jacob with my sword. And I say, actually, before he does that, I'm going to take 3 steps that way. And then Joe is forced to follow through on his action, and he swings his sword, only I'm not there anymore. So that's very fun and cool, and what Temporis 4 should have been and wasn't. So it's very nice to see a lot of these mechanics really landing. And now, unless someone has anything to say about that besides that's awesome.
Super quick note, but I laughed out loud for a full minute when I read that.
Okay, so we've got the merits of the followers of Seth. We've got shedding the snake's skin, which is another effectively copy-pasted merit. 2-point merit. Setites are not losing anything off of that, I don't think. And this is an Uktena merit from the APOC book, whereby peeling off your skin.
I didn't stir it.
By peeling off your skin, you can heal 3 points of aggravated damage and cut off familiarity. A very special note in this system is that not only are you preventing people from clairvoyancing you or scrying you or summoning you or telepathying you or all those things, but you are turning off any blood contracts that you are a part of. And Joe, I know that you have quite a few feelings on blood contracts, so
I honestly, because he's drinking, think this is the funniest idea. If there are two serpents, they're like, haha, I'm going to trick him and make him sign this blood contract and all this stuff. And then the other one's like, haha, he doesn't know I can get out of it. And they both get out of it, and they're just like, wait a second.
I firmly believe that a Tremere would hire two Sedates to do that, just so that he could study a blood contract that isn't actively binding anyone.
Definitely going to do that. Yeah, so Jacob asked me for my thoughts. Here's a lot of them really fast. Blood contract was too good. It just was. And not in the sense that I didn't want it in the book. The problem was it was so good no one let you use it. I know at least a couple of the people listening right now had that problem, where blood contract is such a good and effective power that people are just like, nope, nah, don't want it. And so I love that there is now an exception to blood contract, because very few people are going to have it. It's not a power that's going to be a huge thing that's going to change the dynamic of the game flawlessly. What it's going to do really, 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 really well is it's going to make blood contracts uncertain. And having an uncertain blood contract makes having blood contracts better.
It's more interesting on both sides.
Yeah, because now that you know contracts are not infallible, you're willing to sign one. Even though you probably weren't going to break it either way, because people don't usually use blood contracts for shit they don't already get from you. Rarely do you sign your own name in blood to some shit you haven't agreed to.
And
But
in general, I will say that any mechanic that makes you confident that nothing bad is going to happen to you is a bad mechanic. A mechanic that makes you think, okay, I'm probably okay.
uncertainty is good.
Question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Could someone with this hire a Setite, vicissitude them to look like themselves, send them in to sign the blood contract, and then remove their skin?
I cannot think of any mechanic in blood contract that verifies someone's identity after they have signed.
Everything is based on both parties agreeing.
Even if you signed in a false name, you would be bound by the blood contract you signed. So Sonny Sedite signs a blood contract in Vivienne Ventru's name, is bound by the blood contract themselves, and then gets out of the blood contract. There might be specific wording in blood contract that you must sign in your real name, but I don't think that's there. So yes, I think that would work.
And beyond that,
like a Setite thing to do.
beyond that, just to kind of address the point that you're making, Alex, that's come up a couple of times. It's not that anyone can get out of blood contracts all the time now. It's if there's a way for one person to get out of a blood contract. There could be a mechanic that says, Jim over there can get out of blood contracts. That means that an economy is sprung up around blood contracts. Now, it could mean a lot of things. It could mean that you find a trick to replace yourself with someone else. It could mean that you only make blood contracts with people you know are going, or you only work with people you know can get you out of a blood contract. This actually isn't the only mechanic for getting out of a blood contract, but we'll talk about that later. What's key to understand here is that the introduction of any amount of uncertainty into otherwise certain power will make it used more often. It just will make it usable more often.
As long as I'm afraid, as long as I know that someone can get out of a blood contract, I will always be afraid that the blood contract I know is keeping me alive could be gotten out of.
The way I'll describe it before we move on from this point, almost no one is an infernalist. Per capita, in every game I've ever been involved in, running or taking reports from, on average, about 1 in 200 people plays an infernalist in any given game. We have 3 entire secret police across the different organizations who just hunt infernalists. That's because even though only a specific subset of people can take it, and it has a fuckload of drawbacks, fewer now, we'll talk later, it's awesome. It doesn't really matter. Because anyone can get out of it, that power is no longer inviolable. And at this point, we're talking less about mechanics than we are just mass psychology. People will feel differently about the power. I already feel differently about the power. I like blood contract better now because I'm not confident when I use it. When I use it, I'm like, could be my target, could be a Setite, don't know.
Okay, so I'll
keep us rolling.
real quick sum up the 3-point merit, which is that Setites can get up to 2 points of necromancy now, which, as I understand, is important to like their flavor.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
And maybe necromancy is going to be good with new paths. Right now, it's not very good. But right, the traditional restriction of no mortis except for capitation and promacine is maintained. I will point out that this is towards my preferred fix for necromancy, which is making more people necromancers and making necromancy more general than just ghosts and zombies. I think that's a big part of making it a more interesting and dynamic part of the game. No, Setite Sorcerer is a 4-point merit. Everything that accesses thaumaturgy is 4 points.
I'm like 90% sure. You may look that up and tell us we're wrong.
I'm 100% sure. And if you tell me I'm wrong, then I guess fuck me.
Yeah. So
okay.
Just as a note on that, the necromancy thing. Necromancy will stop being the worst thing in the game when as many common clans have that as have thaumaturgy as an option. All of these clans that are playable can take thaumaturgy. In Sabat, you've got Tzimisce, you've got Telyav, you've got Setites, you've got fucking the weird gangrel ones.
Weather Mastery gangrel.
Weather gangrel. Point is, a lot of motherfuckers can get Thom, which is why Thom doesn't break the game.
There are two parts of that are very similar, which is it's partly how many people can access it, and it's partly how relevant are the thaumaturgy paths, the ideas of the paths, to the average person. Technomancy and blood and weather mastery and fire are important because everyone fucking cares about fire and computers.
If I hit you with a fireball, you don't give a shit about the books I'm reading. I hit you in the face with fire.
I show up to a game with a Giovanni, in a game where Giovanni is allowed to be. There are two possibilities if I have spec for necromancy. I walk up to the game and I say, hey, are there ghosts? And either he says no, I go, okay, there's a corner I'll be in, see you when there are ghosts.
Or the as bad, maybe worse option,
he says yes, and I say, cool, solved it. Let me know if there are any more, and then I'll
be in that corner.
And then I'll solve it again. Necromancy is either it matters or either it doesn't power, and I have the freedom to ignore it until I can't. And then my only option is to go to the person who can fix it. And until either enough people engage with necromancy where the back and forth of using ghosts as patsies is a dynamic game, or when enough necromancy paths deal with things that people care about outside of the very specific niche of dead people, necromancy will not matter.
The day skeletons can do unsoakable normal, I'll buy necromancy.
On that note, we're gonna keep it moving.
Yep, we're gonna skip ahead a little.
Yeah, so just skimming over the.
Please note, we're not ignoring things because they're boring. There's a lot of interesting stuff. There's just it's 145 pages.
So a couple of cool things in the Setite bloodlines. We've got one point that is for the Tlakli. They get to stake you.
Don't at me if you disagree with the pronunciation.
They get to stake you if you are injured instead of incapped. Very big deal. Very useful to ranged. Necessary. When's the last time you remember someone being staked when they weren't already torpid? That's a big fucking deal. Very cool. Very interesting. We've got Obsidian Claws, 3-point merit that lets you use brawl attacks at range. Pretty impressive. Is a weaker version of an Elder Power, which is something we've now seen twice. So maybe let's keep a counter of that. That's a Bastet power from APOC, if I recall correctly. Very good. Grapple at range, swing just your normal attacks at range. Not game breaking in my opinion, but after I finish going through, I'm going to group all of the interesting Setite merits together, Setite bloodline merits together, and we can talk about them. We've got the Vipers who get some cool shit. They get some grapple bonuses that are on par with the Nosferatu. They do not reduce their damage when initiating a grapple,
which is huge.
and once per hour they may grapple without spending willpower, which is going to stack with your strength focus bonus and whatever status you might be carrying. They can, for 2 merit points, get Fortitude as an in-clan discipline. Quite a few bloodlines and clans are getting additional in-clan for 2 merits, as I alluded to earlier while referencing the wrong merit. And for a 3-point merit, the Vipers get a transformative power, the Typhonic Beast, that has,
again, the names in this book are on fucking.
Whatever else we say about the mechanics, it's beautiful.
This is the best named power set I've ever read. That includes the ones I wrote.
This transformative power replicates all of the effects of Serpentis 3 and Serpentis 4, and while I never really had a problem with that, I know a lot of people did, and I kind of get it. One power is giving you snake scales, one power is turning you into a snake, and they have totally different effects.
I get it. I get that narratively, but it is weird to me that, like, because I've heard that argument, like the combined Serpentis 3 and 4, from a crazy number of people, which is really funny to me, because it's Serpentis. That's like if 75% of the game had an opinion about Quietus 3 and 4. But that's a lot of people who care about that very niche power.
But on top of that, which, just to remind you, is a +3 to your dodge and an immunity to grapple and a whole bunch of benefits to biting, which who cares because it's biting. Although we'll talk about biting.
Biting still sucks, but like way less.
In addition to that, hey, shut
There you go. Tell the only female person on this cast to stop talking. That's gonna get us the views.
In addition to that,
sorry, my friend's not good with the law.
You may combine this transformative power with Divine Image, which, let me just point out, Divine Image was a very good power that was only ever bad and ignored because it was a transformative power.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't have any other transformative powers with it. This is a +3 to your dodge, an immunity to grapple, and a what? A +2, a +3 to social tests of a specific flavor, which as a fucking 8th gen Viper, you are now winning the average test on physical and social bids. And on top of all that, while this transformative power is active, you benefit from the focus of every Serpentis power. So, and there's a lot of that too, by the way, of just getting free foci.
Yeah, foci are flying around.
So, Shannon, give us your thoughts on this. The various Sedite merits that I read out. How do you think this changes the game? How do you feel like you're going to interact with this?
I think you're going to see some more thug followers of Set instead of the standard, it seems to be sorcerers. So that is going to be an interesting thing to see.
For sure.
Joe?
Sedites are weird. So I pretty infamously presided over a house of Toreador that was almost completely Sedite, with the exception of 3 True Bruja and 1 Toreador, 2 Toreador, and a lot of Volgear. So like I don't have a problem with Sedites in their general role as infiltrator. I don't have a problem with Sedites in their very like narrative spiritual role. My problem with Sedites has always kind of been
Okay.
Arguing about foci versus foci. Sorry, you distracted me. God damn it. Yeah, a very small number of actual Toreador, a lot of Sedites, a lot of other stuff. Anyway, point is, I've never had a problem with the Sedites as a clan, but they're definitely written as a stand-apart clan in the same way that like the Giovanni are. And I know like the MES and probably a couple other clubs kind of group them together into a team, which I always found interesting. 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 Point is, the Sedites have a really cool story to tell, but they don't really need not Sedites to tell that story. One of the things that I thought they did really well with all these Sedites' power, in particular, is the Necromancy edition. That's good not only for what it does to Necromancy, it's amazing for what it does for Setites. Because now Setites don't just have a narrative tie-in, they have all of the best narrative tie-ins. They can sign blood contracts and walk out. They can have necromancy so that you can stop paying those Giovanni fucks every boon you have. They have all these different powers that make them the best infiltrators, because it's always what they were. You play a Setite so that you can pretend to be someone else. Yeah. But like flat out, they're awesome at that now. And what's great about it is they're not awesome at it in a sense that like they do better infiltration. It's that the things they get are all get out of jail free cards. And that's what I really love about what they did with the Setites. The Setites are they're the sleazy snake oil salesman. And all of the merits they gave them just does so much for that. And yeah, just that's my takeaway.
I think the problem with Setites has always been the problem with the other uncommon and rare clans, which is there's some cool stuff here, but once that wears off, there isn't much that you can't do with a specific background and a better clan's mechanics. And they gave a whole lot of bonuses and interesting mechanics to not just the Setites, but to specific bloodlines that were really lacking. Now, one of the things that kind of comes up here, and is going to come up much more when we talk about, for example, the healers, is that these merits are all very cool, but you can only take so many of them, especially for the bloodlines. There is a restriction to how cool you are allowed to be, which is good. Yeah. But don't let just the list of cool merits make you think, oh, this is really awesome, and I'm going to take all of this shit.
Yeah, you might not be able to take that.
I'm not going to talk about any of the specific merits. I don't know. There's a conversation going on right now in the comments about whether or not this does truly make Setites a viable combat clan, which they've always been like on the fray. They've always been a B-tier combat group. Whether or not this pushes them into possible A-tier, that's up for debate. I look forward to having that debate over the next 3 years of playing different games. But it at least makes me interested in seeing where they go. And I absolutely feel like they had hit their ceiling where we are right now.
Can we move on to Gangrel?
Yes, we can. Shannon, would you like to go ahead and read us some Gangrel merits?
Yes.
Because I feel like you have a somewhat unique in.
Yes, I love Gangrel. The
I've been
first
drinking like a
character I ever played in LARP was a Reckless Gangrel, and it's kind of put a love for Gangrel, but they also usually suck.
Sorry.
At least.
Go to a different battle.
Okay, my husband's being weird. So, I'm going to skip the 1-dot merit, because that seems like it's dots to survival and streetwise, which, you know, fit with the Gangrel pretty well, but not that big a deal. The big one I love is Rending, which is a secret fighting style developed by Gangrels in the Anarch Revolt. It's great. And what it does is, for each time you make an attack that is successful, your target loses a point of blood in addition to any damage. And if it's an exceptional success, you lose 2 points of blood. And this goes on top of Fortitude. So,
it's really fucking good.
So even if they don't take any damage from Fortitude, they still lose blood. So honestly, that is just really, really cool. I love
stop and talk about that one.
Yeah.
Keep going. Let's stop and talk about that power, because it's really cool. So go ahead.
I love when they give Gangrel things that actually make them good fighters, because usually they aren't super great. Mostly in Requiem, but in Masquerade, they're far more tanks rather than damage dealers, and this makes it it goes along with them being tanks because it makes it even more of a war of attrition in the battle because you're taking away their fuel with each attack. So you're depleting their supplies.
Yeah. So attrition has always been a valid approach to combat in Masquerade. Blood is a specific one. There are going to be quite a few builds that do not depend on blood at all. I take away 4 blood from you, you go, all right, I've got 20 and I've used 2 of it in the last 3 hours. But then there are going to be Tremere builds or Toreador range builds or various different combat approaches where you remove 1 or 2 or 3 blood and they stop being able to function as they were. This is a really interesting addition to the overall meta.
Joe? Yeah, so Gangrel are weird. They always have been. In the Masquerade system, if you play a tank Gangrel, up until about 400 XP, you're really, really good, and then you get really bad really quickly. To the point that like 50 XP later, 60 XP later, you kind of suck, which has always been a problem with the Brujah. So giving them more attrition fighting is great because attrition is most important at those really high levels, right? When we both walk into a fight with 700 XP, I'm probably not going to kill you with damage. I'm going to kill you with something else. I'm going to kill you by taking away your actions. I'm going to kill you by dropping you down a pit. Most of the time, if I'm fighting someone that I think someone who's good at combat, I'm probably not going to just punch you until you stop moving. There are exceptions. I've played them. But by and large, combat at that level is about tactics. And I think that rending is a tactic that's kind of, ironically, it's not going to shine as much in the lower XP games that I think a lot of people are going to. Only because of the fact that most people in most fights will have won or lost before blood loss becomes the deciding factor. Now, understand, when you're fighting someone who is not able to overcome your Gangrel tankiness, this gets really fucking good really fucking fast. One of the things that was always there were powers, for example, Retain the Quick Blood is the best example off the top of my head of you have to spend a blood for that to work. Now, you get that blood back, but that is
explicitly... You don't have the blood to spend.
Exactly. You very explicitly are going to be fucked. Like, you can't spend that blood, get that blood back, and use the power. You're just out of that power. So there are a lot of builds, and a lot of builds that don't know they're doing it, rely on things like that have, I always have 1 blood. And if you can take that away from those builds, a lot of people die very unexpectedly.
I'm going to go ahead and recommend, real quick, any other thoughts?
On that one?
Yeah. Okay. I don't feel like there's a lot to write home to in the third dot merit. It talks about...
Third dot merit sucks.
It's a beast trait related merit. There are a lot more mechanics.
Everything that touches beast traits,
we're going to reserve that for the beast trait discussion, where I promise we will have things to say.
I just think it really sucks for 3 dot merit.
I'm also going to suggest that we just skip the outer mains.
Man, you're driving. Pick one.
Assume.
Yeah.
Because they at first get a discipline that isn't in this book and isn't in the core book. There will be a couple of new disciplines introduced in volume 3. And then they just port in mechanics from APOC, like Totem and Spirits, which I think is fucking stupid and shouldn't happen. But that's a lot of personal bias and isn't useful here. So we're going to go on to the Assamite Viziers, which, due to an editing error, got put here. There's only 1 merit.
From now on, we're going to do, I think we'll just do at most 1 merit from a given clan.
That's probably a good idea.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Talking a lot.
So, Assamite Viziers, with a 1-point merit, are able to raise their maximum ceiling on every skill by 1. So, every generation of a Vizier, except for 6, can buy 6 dots in any discipline. And a 6th gen Vizier can buy 7 dots in any discipline. I feel like I don't have to point out how crazy that is, but that's fucking crazy.
It is slightly mitigated by the fact that one of the things you'll probably notice reading this book, numbers are bigger. And I don't mean like a couple, I mean everything that we once understood to be the upper limit is just gone. Everything is just stronger, faster, all of it. So that makes that merit less crazy good, but still really, really crazy good. You've got ninth gens as a random example spitting 17 on that, on everything.
Okay, so Gangrel Coyotes. We've got a 1-dot merit that lets them downgrade status bands and ignore the censure negative status, and also be aware when their alt ID is being investigated. We've got a 2-dot merit that lets them always declare fair escape no matter what is going on. And we've got a 3-dot merit that gives them the accurate quality when they're attacking the person with the lowest initiative. Third one is weird. Not sure I like how much conversation that requires during combat, but the first two are pretty cool. Incentivize the coyotes to be this very squirrely, seditious, uncomfortable. You're obviously joining the Black Hand, but there are other things that you can do in addition to that. Untrustworthy motherfuckers. Anything to add to that?
No.
Okay.
Keep it rolling. Don't get me wrong, it's good stuff. It's just easy to understand.
The Noyad, I'm also gonna.
Jacob, by the way, is terrible at pronunciation.
I just pronounce every letter.
So the Noyad.
I'm gonna skip them too. They get some shark shit, which I'll point out does allow you to apply brutal and deadly, the normal weapon qualities, to any attack that deals damage. That is specifically damage. Psychic Assault will apply.
It's not just applied, it's called out as an example.
Psychic Assault is specifically called out, but for example, Malpomene 5 is an attack that does damage. Anything that you are throwing a chop for that does damage, you get brutal and deadly. So that's a +5 to exceptional, and only the last chop matters.
Now, given how much they kind of suck around that merit, it's not game breaking, but that merit is by itself is a pretty good reason to play one of those.
And also, this is confirmed that Path of Neptune's Might will be a path introduced, which
I'm nervous.
Like we said, we're nervous about paths.
Rolled a lot of games with that path. Not excited.
Giovanni. Does anyone care about the Giovanni?
Listen, if you like Giovanni, this is just not the live video for you.
I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
We're not your target audience. You're not our target audience.
I'm going to call out one Premisine merit because these guys have been making fun of me. Premisine 3-dot merit.
It's the most emo merit ever. I love this goddamn.
This is the most middle thing in the world, and I don't care what either of them says. It's cool.
I love
when
it.
you activate Mortis 5, you summon a rank 4.
Hang on, before you if you don't remember, Mortis 5 is the 60 XP, 1 power in the Mortis path. That makes you 5 crit 7.
Called the Fourth Horseman.
The Fourth Horseman, which makes this even more awesome.
You become an Avatar of Death. When you activate this with the merit, you summon next to you a rank 4 skeletal horse, which is immune to the powers of animalism and necromancy. You automatically mount it with no action cost. While on this horse, the radius of the Fourth Horseman effect, in which everyone around you loses a blood, increases from 2 steps to 5. Anytime you spend an action, all of this is good. Anytime you spend an action on movement, you double the number of steps that you are allowed to take. And when in this form, your heightened connection to the Avatar of Death allows you to use any power of Mortis path with no blood cost. This is a cool power. This is a badass power. This looks awesome. And fuck all of you for what you're about to say.
So I just want to point out, first of all, yes, mechanically, it's just good. It just is.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really good. It actually makes Premisine pretty fucking playable. And they honestly kind of weren't before. That 5 crit 7 was at the cost of a lot. A lot.
Like being a Giovanni.
Not the worst, or not the least. Yeah, it sucks. Being a Giovanni sucks. So that power was already useful and did neat stuff, but wasn't good enough for the build that it required. Now you have a horse, which...
Fucking. How?
Shannon, you go ahead, because I have a story for this one.
So how do you get onto the horse?
Okay. So it takes no action to mount the horse. And I know the book says you summon it next to you, but there are only really two possibilities.
There's two possibilities. The first one is the horse is a miniature horse that is between your legs, and you just kind of kneel.
Now, the reason why we're saying this is because when something doesn't cost an action, what that means in the economy of being is that it happens instantly.
Yeah, instant horse.
I don't know if you've ever tried to mount a horse. Shit ain't instant. Takes a minute.
They are very large.
So either you just summon a mini horse, you kind of step over it, or
in which case you are proceed with a skeletal pony just going.
Or even better, you summon this horse just kind of betwixt thine legs, so that when it's summoned, you're just on its back. But like the process is great because what's happening, and it's going to be a little lewd, but horse. How is that not the best power in every game you've ever played? What do? I summon a horse between my legs. What does it do? Who gives a shit?
What are you gonna do with a dude who just has a horse coming out of the ground between his legs?
How do you fight that? Some dude's like, this is my zombie horse. It grows between my legs.
You have to
I surrender.
sir.
Fuck both of you, and fuck all of you who are laughing at them. Because I read this, and it was cool and metal, and I'm going to play this character 5 times in a row until you stop laughing at me.
Okay, before we go forward, I need to tell you a story about Sabbat. Because the last Chronicle I really played in the MES was in Sabbat. There was a guy in Philadelphia who was in the Black Hand, and he, just cuz, got on a zombie skeleton horse and rode down the middle of the street. In response, pretty much the rest of the Black Hand beat him to death. Because, hey, could you just say out loud what you just did? Now that's a merit. There's a merit for that. All right, cool. I just wanted you all to know.
Let's move on to.
Of course, and left that horse. Of course, and left that horse.
I'm gonna smack you.
Zombie the Third wouldn't put up with that shit.
Okay. Moving on to La Sombra, which needed some love. First, I'll summarize all 3 of them, and we can talk a little bit about it. Level 1, Social Elite. La Sombra are always going to rise to the top of wherever they are, no matter where they are. So you take this merit, and in the Anarchs, it replicates either Moniker or Wild One. You'll recognize both of them as great. Camarilla, Machiavellian Prodigy or Social Nobility. Mac Prodigy is better, but Social Nobility is still good. And Sabbat, holy shit, Black Hand membership, Inquisition membership, or some other ones that don't matter. Because getting a free merit, hey Joe, is that good? And then the second and third dot are
Just
more.
To give you an idea of what a free merit means, everyone else in the world is a 7 out of 7 or worse. You, with your free merits, are like a 9 out of 7, which is better.
And then the 2 and 3 dot merits
the
are related to beast traits. The thing I'll point out, yes, getting free merits is very good. And there's not a single one of the lists that I read where they don't have at least 1 merit worth taking. What I will point out is La Sombra have a very good 1 dot merit, which is Angelic Visage, which after the errata came out, gives you any social merit. It's focus, any social focus. So La Sombra for 1 merit can get 2 social foci or a pretty good extra merit. And again, with merits being a complicated choice, that is a hard choice to make. Really good social status and nobility merit, or 2 foci at a very low cost. That's a hard choice, and that's good. It is good that you have to make difficult choices.
Chan?
No.
Oh.
I agree.
Moving on.
Kind of. Real fast. I won't go more than like 20 seconds. I just thought it's so goddamn cool. It is like, yeah, it hurts to lose angelic visage. There are builds that can take that, and one of the things, like, it's so cool, the idea of like, this is a merit that sums up what we always wanted the Lasombra to be, and they just weren't. They are better than you socially. The things that would cost you don't cost them. And so, especially when you look at like Black Hand membership, which actually has benefits that most people don't even know, or Inquisition membership, those were always really, really rough on a character sheet because 2 merits is a really complicated spot to be. When you're a 2 merit, you're a 2 merit, you're competing with Slippery Customer, objectively, even now, the best merit in the game. So when you're trying to compete with that, you're in bad shape.
And let me point out, this didn't just make Lasombra better. It implicitly made both the Black Hand and the Inquisition contain more Lasombra because it's easier to be a member as Lasombra than for anyone else, which is good because Lasombra are supposed to be the natural leaders of the Sabbat.
And that's what this comes down to. Is if your mechanics make your story true, they're good mechanics. If they make your story wrong, they're bad mechanics. If they make your story ambiguous, quit.
I feel like we can move on.
Yep.
I'm going to skip Kiasid because A, that's porting in changeling mechanics, and
Nobody don't care about
that. Malkavians are next.
Then talk slow.
Okay. So, Kiasid, either you were going to play them because you loved their flavor or you weren't going to play them. So we leave it to you to talk about that. I will say, nothing they've put in is inherently game-breaking, with the possibility of the dreaming mechanics, which are a travesty and an abomination unto Nugget. The Malkavians. The Malkavians warm my withered heart. So, as our one point, which I am going to front load this because it's important you remember the downsides. If you take the 1 Malkavian merit from this book, you are not allowed to take expanded consciousness and get a 3 mental focus. Not 3, but a 1 merit mental focus,
yeah.
Which is fucking absurd.
Huge. That is
Strength and madness. If someone drinks your blood, they get your derangement for 1 hour. If someone drinks your blood 3 nights in a row, they get your derangement permanently. Malkavians can tie people up in their basement and inflict their derangements upon them. And if that isn't the most Malkavian thing you've ever heard, congratulations. You do not probably need to see a therapist. The rest of us are happy. And then, in addition to that, just because that wasn't fucking enough for a 1 point merit, anyone who has a derangement trait, 1 derangement trait, 1 measly, mild, simple derangement trait, you get a, wait, we're gonna get to that. You get a +2 to all offensive tests against that person. That is physical, mental, and social offensive tests against anyone with a derangement trait, which you can inflict with Dementation 4 or Dementation 2 if they already have a derangement, just have derangement traits. But
You're editorializing. Just for you, Eric.
And then I will quickly summarize the other 2 before I open this up to just comments. Level 2, Malkavian time, is just granting inherent mechanics to the Malkavian Madness Network that literally every Malkavian player has wanted to be put into play since they started playing. You can ask questions, you can flag locations, you can send messages, and Malkavians are going to receive, even if they haven't bought the merit. Buying the merit just means you can send the signals and ask the questions. And then level 3.
That merit stops Malkavian infiltrate.
Well, no. Well, Malkavians can pick. Well, yeah.
Argue during the argument time.
Discussion. And then turns out this isn't a technique; it is a merit. So a little bit of. This one is going to be a bit contentious. Malkavians can save their merits. They're downtime spot. They're allowed to save the downtimes. I've got let's say 4 downtimes as a 9th gen Malkavian who likes downtime. I spend 2 of them doing random shit, and then I walk up to the storyteller at the beginning of the game, and I say, I've got this 3-point merit, which I don't think bans you from anything in the Malkavians. They've got the 1-point merit and the 4-point merit, and then just bloodlines. And I say, I've got 2 downtimes that I would like to put in the bank. Storyteller says, okay, roger that. And then I am going off and doing a plot, and it turns out that it would have been useful if I had used my downtime to do something. And then I say, hey, I've got a downtime in the bank. I did use my downtime for that. Didn't know why I was doing it when I did it, but now it makes sense. Now it makes sense that I came out to this beach and dug all these holes so that right at this moment, like I would fall in that hole.
Okay, so I'm going to go last.
Joe, Shen, I know that you love Malkavians. What do you have to say?
So for that, on the mild end of things, I know this can get really contentious and just crazy. This could be quite helpful for players who don't know what to do with their downtimes, but don't want to entirely waste them, or people who just don't have time to come up with pages worth of downtimes.
Go ahead and remember it's the whole thing.
Yeah. So that is definitely it's something that can be helpful to those. It is 3 merits, so there is decent sized cost to it, but I can also see it getting out of hand really quick. I'll pass it to you.
Good. I love the Malkavians. I love all of this. I think that it is immensely powerful while still forcing you to make important decisions. Too powerful? No, I don't think so. I think that Malkavians are capable of bringing overwhelming force in a specific direction. I would probably call them the Assamites of the mental and social disciplines. They're capable of bringing overwhelming force against a single target. They will wreck someone's life. You bring a crew against a Malkavian, or you construct a problem that a Malkavian cannot solve by killing a single person, they're going to have a hard time. Malkavians have inherent limits built into them that the game does successfully balance against. I will gladly admit that downtime merit is a fucking nightmare to deal with as an ST, and there are inherent assumptions that are built into how you're going to have to deal with that if you want to survive with sanity. I would say nothing more to that. We've got some opinions here.
So at this point, we've been doing live videos between the last one and this one for about an hour and 45 minutes. I need you to know that I could, without trying very hard, do another hour and 40 minutes just on these merits. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna try and keep myself honest and keep it to 2 minutes or fewer. So at 1 hour, 11 minutes, that's what we'll call it, I will try and wrap up my point. If you give me 3 downtimes to spend retroactively, I will kill God with my bare hands. Flat out. The downtime merit is impossibly powerful. If you are good at downtimes, this merit, you just win at whatever you choose to do. Because it's not what I once thought the downtimes should be, and I still actually, as a storyteller, believe it should be, a series of specific actions you can accomplish, investigate, even attack, collect, things like that. There were very concise actions that you take. They're not, though. Downtimes are just things you spent about a month doing. flat out, when I read that merit, I texted Jacob and said, I think I have to play Malks from now on. Because if you give me 3 downtimes to spend retroactively, I will kill God with my bare hands. So, that merit, no, I said 11. 111. That merit is too good. That being said, I want to set that aside and talk about the implications of that merit for storytellers as fast as I can because I have like 48 seconds left. Most of this book is clearly for storytellers. The things that got buffed are rare clans. The merits that got buffed are merits that let people infiltrate or interact more effectively with people who aren't their friends. The mechanics in the back of the book are all about settings, locations, things like that, which, by the way, when we get to the, so good. Anyway, this is clearly a storyteller resource book. And I think this is the only thing in it that is really, really bad for storytellers. Because spending downtimes retroactively, downtimes affect so much, and they're so complex, and so interconnected, that saying, hey, 30 days ago I did this, is a nightmare for storytellers. That's my 2 minutes.
I'll just chime in and add to that a lot of the things that have been relegated to downtimes have been done so specifically because a storyteller wants a couple of days to think about how they're going to handle them. Go ahead.
Quick point. I do think it is worth mentioning that not every player is as thoughtful as you guys are into what their actions are, and that it might end up being more of things like Jacob said, where they dug a bunch of holes in the ground so the person without any dots and athletic couldn't get to them, kind of a thing.
I have a thing I was saving for the end, but can we do this like the Democratic debates?
Go ahead.
Yes, you're entirely and in every way right, Shannon. That's actually why I have a problem with it. I said to you guys earlier, and I'll say to all of you watching, nothing in this book is bad news for me. My character is going to be okay. All these crazy strong powers, all this stuff that's being added, again, I sound super negative. I really, really like this book a lot more than I planned to. But my point is that all the really powerful stuff that gets added, all these crazy tricks I reference, they're going to end up on my character sheets. And that's not great for game balance. And I have always found it a very condescending relationship as a player and a storyteller when someone comes in and says, hey, I'm going to play a sheet that's not that good because I know that if I try, I'll be too good for your game. Which isn't what you use, what words you use, but it's kind of what it feels like you're saying to a storyteller. You're like, oh, I'll take it easy for your game. That's super condescending. You may mean it with the best will in the world, but as a storyteller, every time a player's ever said that to me, I was fucking furious. Admittedly, most of them were really bad at mechanics, and so it was worse. But it's still true. It's really, really upsetting for a player to openly downgrade themselves so that they don't break you.
And I think that Joe is very right when he says that this is a book that is primarily for storytellers. The main thing this book did was add merits and techniques. And the thing about merits and techniques is that a lot of them are really good and really interesting, but they are only good for one interaction. And so when you are thinking as a PC and you buy a merit or a technique, you have to think in terms of your total character's lifetime. This has to always be useful to me. If it's not useful every game, then it has to be really useful 1 game out of 3, or the only thing that matters 1 game out of 6. But when a storyteller builds an NPC, they can think this has to be useful for 1 interaction. I get to use this once, and that's all that matters.
An easy example, Dark Fate should never be on your sheet, but as a storyteller, it's on about 60% of mine.
And in those terms, this book was written almost exclusively for storytellers. A lot of things that aren't necessarily great, but are very useful and very cool. With that, I think we'll skim the Malkavian bloodlines because we couldn't not talk about Knights of the Moon, but we'll try to keep it moving.
Just, by the way, read this book. It's 145
It's very
pages.
good. We're not
It's
going to
mostly
cover
mechanical. It only took me about 2 hours to read it cover to cover. Just read the guide.
The Ananke get a 1 merit power object. You pick a skill, and as long as you're holding the object, you get a +2 to any test using that skill.
There's a process involved. It's not super easy to do.
There are all kinds of drawbacks, whatever. Again, the bids, the test pools in this game are larger than you are used to. We had worked out, anyone who really cared about whatever power that they were interested in had worked out what is the highest bid I can get. Whatever you worked out.
Most of you were
is
wrong.
Bigger now.
But what's the product?
Dominate was the highest. It was something around a 24. Now it's around like it might have broken a 30 with all the different buffs they put in. All of the numbers have gotten bigger. I think offensive numbers have gotten much bigger than defensive numbers, and that's a big change to the meta.
But
I'm looking forward to see how that gets. Ananke can also get access to necromancy rituals. That's kind of cool. There are a lot of more merits that get you access to a lot of extra merits to rituals. And then they get like a willpower refresh. Who cares? Knights of the Moon get a 1 point merit that means that their minimum willpower for determining their defensive pools is always a 3. No matter how low their willpower gets, when they resist a power, they use 3 as their willpower.
At a minimum. It can't be high. Super good.
Their 2 merit. Anytime they are called to use their investigation, their stealth, or their dodge, they can use their awareness. Anytime you are wondering, is skill focus worth it? Well, when one skill works as 4, yeah.
Guys, it's so good. It's so impossibly fucking. No.
And then their 3 merit, because all of the Knight of Moon merits are worth it. Anytime you are targeted, because remember, the Knights of the Moon really don't like demontation. Anytime someone tries to use demontation 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 on you, I don't know how they use demontation 3 on you, but the point being, anytime someone targets you with demontation 1 through 5 or a technique, it automatically fails. And anytime someone tries to use Elder or Luminary demontation on you, you get a +3 to resist. Because why the fuck not?
Just to clarify, Knights of the Moon hunt Malkavians now, and they're really good at it. All right, we got to keep it going.
Yeah,
we'll talk all night about that.
Nosferatu, overall, not a lot to say.
Yeah, we're going to say a quick dirge for the Nosferatu. Didn't get a lot of love in this book. They got a couple of the techniques kind of play into their stuff pretty well, but by and large, the Nosferatu didn't get a lot out of this book.
In fairness, part of that is because the Nosferatu worked really well, not just as individuals, but as a group.
If 4 Nosferatu want you dead, just retire.
The Nosferatu kind of had everything. Yeah. It sucks a little bit that they got so little. It kind of makes sense that if the trade-off was between that or ruining the meta, I'll take this.
I would have liked them to get some love because I love my Nosferatu, but you can still play a Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Nosferatu can travel pretty much anywhere if they're just passing through and will always be uninterrupted by patrols and can take friends with them. They're Obfuscate 1 and Obfuscate 3, hiding objects and changing their own appearance, beats cameras now,
Which is awesome.
which is great.
Super,
It's
super
really good. Yeah, Matt, I know that technically none of the Elder Demontation powers are resisted, but probably they'll add some Elder powers in addition to some Luminary powers. So, we'll see about that. Obfuscate level 2. Anyone who breaks your Obfuscate takes an aggravated damage, and also you always get a +3 to your initiative when you enter combat. I actually forgot about that one. It was pretty good. I probably overstated how much the Nosferatu lost out on this. They got some cool shit. I don't know how well it did at augmenting their strengths. One of the big things about the Nosferatu has always been an uncomfortable level of flexibility in their ability to enter any scenario really well. And so, they already had a lot of the raw power they needed. Giving them more flexibility, not a bad idea. And then on that, level 3 merit, which is going in line of this book's giving animal retainers a lot more, is the Nosferatu can raise their own special rank 7 animal retainer, which
We'll talk about pets later.
but suffice to say, yeah, that is very good. Is it 3 merits good? If you focus it, yes. But that is not a general merit, that is a niche merit. Either your build is for that or you don't want to take it.
You're either you don't have it or you're that guy.
Again, giving
Person,
Nosferatu a
that
lot of
person.
options is kind of the Nosferatu's thing.
Yeah.
Chen, anything to add there?
No.
Okay. Toreador, level 1. Holy shit.
Toreador got some love.
Oh my god, Toreador, when we sat down before this and talked about which clans really benefited, Toreador, one of the ones we just came on.
They just got
Level
some
1
love.
Toreador
It
merit.
might
I
actually
might,
be Toreador.
instead of Sedites. Maybe some Toreador infiltrating the Sedites for a change. Level 1 Toreador merit. I might just not mention 2 or 3. Anytime you use a social discipline in an opposed test, you get the focus benefit. All social disciplines, you get the focus. I don't have anything else to say here because I feel like it's especially. Is there a 1 Toreador merit? I feel like there is, but I also feel like I never ever took it at any time.
It's not.
Is it like a skill boost to performance or
Probably,
craft?
I
Or
forget.
It's probably a craft.
Hang on, because I do want to talk about this merit before we go on. So one of the things that was really interesting about the vampire meta that I think most people probably didn't know is that foci were sort of merits light. They were really designed to make you make difficult choices about your build. One of the things you'll notice is that most disciplines have 2 foci. And you'll notice that the disciplines that are really, really good together often don't have the exact same foci. They usually share 1 and don't share a second. And that's done to make you decide which of the powers you're going to be really good at. Now, the thing about this isn't that it gives you all of, Artist Blessing, there you go, James, thank you. The point about this isn't just that it gives you all of these powers with their focus effects. That's really good. What it means is that you can make a lot more builds that rely on a lot fewer foci. And for 1 merit, you're basically replacing versatile in a lot of ways. You're replacing functionally what versatile used to do, which is a theme in this book. Versatile kind of gets gutted by a lot of the in-clans here. And so you've taken away in a lot of ways that meta of that competition between the different foci. It was generally known, if you're here to be a thug, you've got wit, you've got charisma, and you probably have dexterity because most builds can trick you into getting strength or stamina.
Now, one thing I'll say is that, as Joe kind of just summarized, the foci were not as good a decision-making tree as merits were.
They were merits without the balancing.
There were 9 foci, and there were already in the core book a lot of ways to get extra foci. There were some decisions you had to make, but they were not character-defining decisions. They were just, do I want this tool or that tool? It's not as much a loss to the overall meta of the game to allow these various extra foci as it would have been to relax the restrictions on merits.
So, and that's really what it comes down. It's just the foci, like all of the meta of this game has been changed, and that's really important to bear in mind. A lot of these powers that sound crazy good are actually pretty balanced against the other powers in the same book. But the overall meta of this game is really, really different, and foci are probably, or foci, if you don't like Greek, are probably where it changes the most, with the maybe exception of willpower or foci is an argument. Either way, point is, huge fucking changes to the balancing act of focuses. Yeah, fuck you, different plural. Anyway, keeping it rolling.
Okay, Ishtari, nothing special to say here except for Their 3-point merit, in which they can automatically escape a grapple or fit themselves through a space no smaller than 18 cubic inches, taking no damage, is called Itty Bitty Living Space. Again,
Great name.
the naming of these powers.
Honestly, the names for all the Ishtari merits are
Unparalleled.
Now, the problem is that mechanically speaking, that merit should be called just play a Setite.
But overall, again, we're skipping through here, but the merits of the Ishtari pretty decent to make them a viable combat warrior.
Yeah, they're definitely upgraded. They're probably not upgraded as fast as mainline
For
Toreador.
record, for our vocabulary, we will distinguish between viable and good.
Yeah.
Viable is if you play this build, I will not laugh at you, and you will have significant impact in the game. Good is you can be expected to succeed in 70% of your character goals, roughly speaking.
I just base it on how many PCs on average you can solo.
That's also fair. Bulgir.
I like the
One
merit, which
Yeah.
is for Bulgir, which is
Let me read those out. And so 1 merit for Bulgir, you can now buy vicissitude up to 5, which is a very big deal. Bulgir Worldry is limited to 1 through 2, and that was it
made
kind of
sense.
made
It made sense as a narrative decision.
But for one thing, limiting it, like cutting off 4 makes sense. Cutting off 3 was cutting off a lot of their sort of artistry options. So I like giving them the possibility of unlocking the full wave while still making it a merit cost. Level 2, beast trait stuff, nothing special. And level 3,
Let Shannon talk about this one.
Yeah.
I know she loves it.
you can buy Sabat merits.
that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, no,
You had interesting
it's
things
kind
to
of
say.
cool. So we've got the Vulgir story-wise were originally the Sabat exclusively, and then they switched hands. But with the 3-dot merit, they don't lose all the stuff that they necessarily learned with the Sabat. So you can still have things like Executioner or Volatile or the other Sabat merits, which I like flavor-wise. They don't lose those things, and there's also some really nice stuff in the Sabat merits. So it's a cool addition to be able to get those in the can.
Yeah.
Keep it quiet, probably.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of clans got buffed. We talked at the top of the video, rare clans got buffed a lot. We talked just a second ago, Toreador got buffed a lot. One of the really cool things about the Ishtari is they did definitely get buffed. Not a ton. They definitely got buffed, but what's most important is that the direction the buffs took for them and the narrative and mechanical changes, or the mechanical changes they went through, really strongly support the narrative of, I said Ishtari, I meant Vulgir. The Vulgir are just more Vulgiri now.
It does apply to the Ishtari.
It does apply to the Ishtari too. But the Vulgir are the ones that really caught my eye. Is just that 1-dot merit especially, really like the thing the Vulgir bring with them, the reason why we accept them back into the Camarilla, they came back bearing vicissitude.
They come bearing gifts.
That's really good. We want vicissitude. Like, we murder people for having it, but we really want it. And that's what it really comes down to for me, is just flat out, like, of all the clans that got a buff and all the clans that are better, the Vulgir and to some extent the Ishtari are the mechanical changes most directly and effectively support the narrative of that bloodline. And I love it. I love every second of it. It's amazing.
I'll go ahead and take the contrarian position here. I do not like carrying Sabat merits in the camera. I don't like it. Part of it is that the options are a lot more narrow than it might sound. You are not allowed to carry any of the merits that require a position. That's already ruling out like half of them. A lot of the merits for the Sabat require an active faith in Cain, and if you're being honest as a member of the Camarilla, you probably shouldn't have that. Although there's the argument to be made that as a Camarilla, you probably should still have faith in Cain because he's objectively the god of vampires.
can make an
Well, that's a-
argument
that's a-
for
that's a whole different
Volgear probably still have faith in Kane if their entire family left. They
Yeah.
kind of had to go with them.
Yeah.
Whether or not that changes their beliefs on a dime.
But then that also comes down to, so the only two merits that I can think of off the top of my head that are both good and possibly interesting to, or viable to take are Executioner and Volatile. And both of those are specifically combat merits. Now let's remember, and physical combat merits of that. Now let's remember that it costs 2 points to be a Volgear. It costs 3 points to take this. And another 1 if you want to have vicissitude up to 5. So that's a lot of investment to just exist. You don't get Slippery Customer, you don't get a lot of the other combat merits. Executioner, it's a +1 to Intimidate, and maybe as an 8th gen Volgear, you're going to dominate along with social disciplines. But it's not all that great for forming a physical combat build.
There's a physical aspect to that too, with Executioner.
Right, but what I'm saying is that Executioner is primarily a melee combat build, and Volgear are still Toreador who can buy vicissitude at out-of-clan costs, let me remind you. So if they pay 1 merit point on top of the 2 to exist, they can have Horrid Form. Horrid Form is really good. But then if they buy this, they have pretty much no other merits to speak of. Executioner gives them a benefit in Frenzy, and Horrid Form is a very good combat discipline. But on top of that, all they have is Celerity in Clan and the 2 other physical disciplines to buy out of Clan, along with having bought Vicissitude out of Clan. That's a rough build.
Yeah, and that's definitely fair criticism. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I flat out, I do agree that they're not great at combat. They never were. I think the thing about the Volgear that they're bringing to the table, because Horrid Form is great. It's the best individual power of Vicissitude. But Vicissitude as a whole, I think, is a lot more than Horrid Form, and it's not given credit for that. So I will agree that they are not combat gods. They're flat out not. They're not even A tier. They're maybe B tier combatants. But I think the things that they are bringing to the table, when you combine, for example, Keeper of a Sacred Text with having 5 dots of Thanatosis, is that every gangrel can eat their fucking heart out for being that guy with the lore. I'm a gangrel wanderer with a cowboy hat who, yeah, I don't care, I'm a Volgear. I know everything about everyone and you're not allowed. Like, they're really, really good at that sort of thing. And that's what the Volgear, to me, narratively are. Narratively, the Volgear are, the reason they're accepted back into the camp is because they know what no one else does, which is what it's like to be a member of the Sabbat. Not just facts about the Sabbat, what it's like to be one of them. And that's a huge deal. And all of these mechanics support that.
I agree with that. And I'll also point out that certain techniques have very much expanded exactly how useful vicissitude is in and out of combat. And that's a big deal, especially with, like, I don't know if giving them Bonecraft and whatever the fuck vicissitude 5 is, turning into a pile of blood, but giving them Bonecraft is a big deal. Let's move on. Tremere. I'll summarize the 3 merits and then we'll talk quite a bit about combat thaumaturgy, because that's always been a contender.
It's also the only thing to talk about with the Tremere, right?
Level 1 merit, Ritual Master. You double the number of rituals you're allowed to buy. Very importantly, this does not mean that you're not allowed to buy thaumaturgical expertise. This is an explicit exception to that rule, banning the same number of merits purchased from the core book. So, yeah, there are a lot of good rituals. And there will probably be more, because that's the whole thing being expanded. Level 2 merit, Quick Caster. This is the biggest deal, especially because there is no 2-dot Tremere merit. You, while casting, may add your dots in occult to your initiative. This is part of a larger pattern. There are many more bonuses to initiative than there were in the core book. But a Tremere who was casting not only had to deal with the fact that his bid of Mental plus Occult at 17 or 18 or maybe 20 if he really pushed it was going to be low, but it was also going to go after all of the physical hitters and people who were able to invest in celerity had gone. And now, maybe you're an XP where you can buy celerity, maybe you aren't. You've got a +5 to your initiative on top of everything else. And then, level 3 merit, Spell Slinger. I'll point out, this is replacing Talisman. If you're one of the 2 people in the universe who bought Talisman, you may pick a path and get a +4 wildcard bonus to all test pools using that path, which is a much larger bonus than Talisman, but for a specific path, which is still worth it because when you're talking about combat thaumaturgy, there are really only 1 or 2 paths you're talking about. Really just Lure of Flames. You could make Path of Blood is mental be mental, so you're fine with 17.
Okay.
You've got your grapple for damage and bloodsteel,
Yeah.
but that's a component of a bigger build.
Also, I don't know if you could say that Cauldron has its own test.
Oh yeah, in terms of this mechanic, it
So
very
you
clearly
wouldn't
does.
benefit from Spell Slinger for Cauldron.
You benefit from the initiative boost.
Yes, but that's the level 2 initiative. Oh, that's an interesting. I don't know if you because you cast it after. We'll have that conversation.
Point is, Eric, yes,
So-
movement of the mind would benefit from this, but the best things you do with movement of the mind aren't actually test pools anyway.
Control is pretty. Well,
Control's not bad. Control. I don't want to say that it's bad. I'm not saying that the powers that you have test for are bad. That's a good example. But like repulse and flight are the things about movement of the mind that make it crazy.
and control doesn't benefit as much because control to establish the grapple was mental be mental, and after you
that was an MES mechanic.
fuck. Okay, then yes, moving of the mind does still benefit from this. Lure of Flames benefits more. Jip, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. Go ahead.
So this is where we're going to take time to talk about combat casting. There's a couple other things that we're going to bring up later involved in combat casting, but this is where it really comes up. It is very, very obvious to me as both a reader and someone who occasionally contributes mechanics to different projects that someone sat down with a blank page and said, I'm going to make combat thom good. And I would say they 75% succeeded. We kind of sat down and wargamed out, Jacob Shannon and I kind of wargamed out a little bit of what a combat thom build looks like in this system. It's very, very expensive, and it's the only thing you're good at. But you are good enough at it that it matters. If someone shows up to combat and says, I'm a Lure of Flames build, they might be able to do some cool stuff with that. There is a legitimate chance that they'll contribute to the fight. Oh, was that an errata? Okay, that was an errata, not a mechanic.
Okay.
Neat.
Then yeah, Control 5 doesn't need this to be good at the start
Movement.
because if you get it once, you already have deprived them of several actions, and if they break, fine, they break. They've lost at least one action doing it.
The point is that you can pretty convincingly bid. I think, off the top of our head, working from memory, we hung around in the 26 to 27 range on offensive thom pools, which is good enough that you're actually beating some dodge pools on good dodges, on dodges that are good builds, who are, I'm a 30 brawl and a 25 dodge, you're now above that. And that's really, really useful. There's just a lot of that. You can do a ton of good with that. Now, I will go back to my original point, which is that I don't think they fully succeeded because combat thom is fucking expensive. Being good at it is all you can be good at. And what's tricky about it is that the ways in which it's expensive are prohibitive to being good at other things when you get more XP, which is a really long-winded way of saying that your sheet as a combat thom Tremere with this book, your sheet at 200 XP and your sheet at 400 XP, not that different. What you're doing in combat is you'll have some new tricks. You have a couple of extra things you can do, but over the course of those 200 XP, your core design won't really shift. And this is one of the very few builds that's true of.
Pretty much the key takeaway here is before this book came out, if you were a Tremere who wanted to make thaumaturgy lethal by itself, you were not allowed to exist. You were unimpressive and unimportant and sent to the kiddie table. Now, you are allowed to exist in a couple of very specific ranges. And that is important. That matters. That has a whole bunch of effect on how the Tremere as a group are going to function in this meta. And it allows people to scratch that itch of playing the witch and the sorcerer and the warlock archetype that we've always kind of felt like the Tremere should allow. But it doesn't mean that half of all Tremere are going to get to fulfill that archetype, unless you want to play what is going to feel like a carbon copy sheet.
Shannon, you want to say something on that?
Oh, no, I agree. Some people just really want to play the wizard character, and, you know, if that's what they want, then they can do that better now. Because, I mean, I've wanted to do that. My character literally wore a Ravenclaw sweater. I was a witch, and I was happy about it.
I will say that I'm a little idiosyncratic on this because of my views on Tremere. I don't want them to be good at combat. I don't want Tremere to do damage. If you've never read Treant Monk's Guide to Being a Pathfinder Wizard, your gaming career is lesser for it. It was one of the first things I ever read when I got into mechanics, and it's been formative to how I've viewed mechanics ever since. And the concept behind it, it's a very long document. The concept behind it is very simple. As a wizard, you are God. You control the battlefield, you control everyone in it, you can change everything that's happening, and you can modify the world to fit your will so that all of your DPS and your thugs and your tanks and whatever get to feel cool. As a Tremere, that's what you do. That's the shit you do. You Tyrant's Gaze Mass Manipulate, you control, you move into the mind, you fly, you hit people with all these different powers, you control the battlefield with conjuration in ways that no one else can even come close to. It's such a dramatically awesome field control power.
Killing a single person is a waste of a nuke.
When you could spend your action changing the nature of combat and instead you throw fire at someone, I hate you. Which is why I don't really like combat thought. But I will say, from a semi-non-biased mechanical standpoint, the person who set out to make combat thom viable, it is now. Good job. I don't like you personally, but you did good.
Let's move on. Skimming Telyad, nothing really to talk about here.
They're fine.
Telyad
were already okay, now they're still okay.
Cheap rituals and a reference to the fact that Koldunic sorcery and abyssal mysticism is going to get some love.
Very excited for that.
Good thing. I hope it's as a modification to thaumaturgy and necromancy. I hope it's a unique paradigm in which those paths are approached so that we don't get into the 5 different kinds of powers that all have to interact with each other.
It basically comes down to, if Koldunic and abyssal sorceries, mysticism, are a single discipline tree, cool. If it's like a new thaumaturgy that isn't thaumaturgy, gonna make this a little rough.
Let me see.
Vaz, just talk about Vaz. That's all anyone cares about.
Yeah, they've got a couple of things that are okay. And then we get to Vaz. So you can take a retainer and turn it into a vase over a number of downtime actions equal to the initial level of the retainer. You give it an extra 3 points of stock NPC. So you take a 5 stock NPC, spend 5 downtime actions, turn it into a level 8 stock NPC. You give it an extra animal retainer trait. It probably started out as an animal because animal retainers are pretty good right now. So that's another animal trait. It gets +2 physical attribute focuses, which is an explicit exception to stock NPCs having foci. And for every 3 levels of rating it has, it gets an extra size category, which if you haven't played APOC before, the size categories are basically saying if something is really, really large, then it gets more physical slots to be attacked with, which makes sense. Is not necessarily the most interesting thing for combat, but does make sense. Vases have been something that people have wanted for a long time. I do not like them. I feel like this is a decent place to talk
Yeah,
about.
that's what I was gonna recommend.
Yeah, so I have an inherent bias against pet builds. Yes, and I have a lot of reasons for this, but I'll go ahead and just bring up the most pertinent one mechanically, because that's the thing that's relevant now, which is the BNS system and most LARP systems do not handle action economy well when it comes to pets.
There we go.
It handles it really well amongst PCs, but when I can spend 1 XP per 1 dot retainer and have each of them do a minimum amount of damage in a low XP game where I'm not assuming everyone has fortitude, and where I can spend 9 XP to get a retainer that has the celerity 4 necessary, that they're doing a decent amount of damage with their gun, and I'm having 20 or so stock NPCs throwing good bids with their guns, and I'm allowing people to buy my in-clan disciplines higher than I do, because I'm a little 11th gen Zamisi. Why would I buy Auspex 5 when I can make 3 retainers that each have Auspex 5 and send them out to go do my scouting or build my telepathy webs? That is, Joe and I push this game mechanically. We come up with clever tricks. We come up with interesting things the game can do. But that is the kind of thing that just feels breaking in an uninteresting way. You are just putting free XP on your sheet in a way that does not engage with the game or add to it in a meaningful way. And so, with a lot of mechanics in this book meant to engage with animal retainers and make them a more active part of the game, maybe they're good, maybe they're bad, but I don't like them.
Yeah.
Also,
Shannon.
why would I don't entirely understand why you would want to play a game in which you're not the one doing the actions. You're having your dog or whatever do your actions for you instead. Like, why are you there when you can just send your dog to do things?
Yeah.
Just
So I mentor a lot of young STs. I spend a pretty substantial amount of my time helping people who are just starting up their first game or are having trouble with the game they're running or whatever, helping them understand sort of the ins and outs of storytelling. I'm a very philosophical storyteller. I have really sort of broad goals when I tell stories. I spend a lot of time teaching young storytellers how to do that effectively. And one of the things that I always try to drive home with young storytellers is everyone should get a turn, and none of those turns should be the only thing people talk about. So when you're running a game as a storyteller and you've got a combat, let's say you've got 3 bad guys, 5 good guys, all of the good guys should do something cool, should get the opportunity to affect the fight, even if those good guys aren't that great mechanically. As a storyteller, your job is to create a story that is equally interesting for good and bad mechanical players. And when you're doing that, one of the hardest things as a storyteller, one of the most disruptive things as a storyteller, is somebody with a pet build. Because mechanically, just to be honest and call balls and strikes, they get more time than everyone else. And it's not close. Pet builds have a problem, they run away really fast. Pretty often, if you have 1 pet incorporated into your build, unless you're a Ventru, you have 5 more. And that's the problem as a storyteller, is that pets are game slowing. They get in the way of what you're doing. They make it worse. They just kind of make every detail more shitty. And so anytime I see pet builds buffed, I get really frustrated. Not because I think it's unbalancing mechanically. Pet builds actually in BNS have been pretty impressively restrained, with the obvious exception of APOC, where everyone's a pet build and everything else is secondary, but this is not an APOC video. The point is that generally speaking in BNS, pet builds are restrained, and this book makes them really good.
Now, it would feel intellectually dishonest to not point out the primary restriction to pet builds, which is that it is a bitch to replace a high-ranked pet build. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's 10 games or 5 months to replace a rank 5 retainer.
It's utterly horrifying.
But it's really bad. So you can manage that if you're very careful, but that means you have to be very careful. So it shouldn't sound like this is just unrestricted bullshit. There are restrictions.
That said, so understand the reason why we're talking more on this subject than we have on the others. This is actually a very old argument between Jacob and I about a lot of these details. It's something we've disagreed and agreed on over the course of about 6 years now. What I will say is that when you're talking about any build, if the build is, I'm amazing and will beat the shit out of you, except for one case, whether it's narrow or wide, in which my character just sucks. I don't like those. Jacob tends to enjoy playing those because he really likes that feeling of riding the knife's edge. As a storyteller and a player, I find them very frustrating because I don't like anything binary in a game. I think games are about gradients, and I think games are really, really they're built on spectra. And you know, Jacob agrees philosophically with that in a lot of ways, but I think when we actually get into playing,
enjoyment out of having something I always know will fuck me if I don't play it very
exactly. So as a player, you may really enjoy pet builds for exactly that reason, because of the fact that if you walk as a Tremere, we didn't really get into the thing, but there's a Tremere, it's a technique, that's why I haven't got into it. Point is, there's a Tremere thing where you have a crowd, they give you a bonus to thaumaturgy. But it's a crowd of ghouls, and killing ghouls in the cam is like a trivial
move. In general, I will always say to any people interested in writing games out there, anytime you put in an extra power, it's always a good idea to add an Achilles heel to it, because it just makes games dynamic. Anything that adds a level of decision making and strategy to a game, I'm interested in trying your game out.
So to finish up my point before we can wrap up and move on to the next thing, because of the nature of ghouls and because of the nature of assisting and all the things that go into having a pet build in the crowd, as a player, my inclination when I walk into any game is I say, okay, that's a vampire, that's a vampire, that's a vampire. That vampire has 5 ghouls behind them wearing robes. I don't know anything about that player. I don't know anything about that character. I don't know anything about the powers they have on their sheet. I will tell you flat out, unless there is an Elysium law saying I can't, my first action of the game will be to put 2 rounds in the back of every single one of those ghouls' skull. Because it cost me 5 trivial boons? Fuck a trivial boon. I'll make you sandwiches. But killing all of your pets before I know anything else about you is just what I naturally want to do to pet builds. And that's a problem, not just for me, but for the dynamics of the game.
Also, friendly fire can be a big thing. You got somebody on your team with Ob 10 and you have 5 ghouls who are helping you. Well, hey, they just dropped Ob 10 too. All your ghouls are dead.
That definitely gets in one of the inherent problems of AoE.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Just for the record, AoE is usually bad. Even when you think it's good, it's probably bad.
But so rewarding. So fulfilling.
So much fun. Feels good inside.
Okay, I'm going to skip the Carpathians. They actually got some good merits, but
they're just not special.
No one's played.
It's a Carpathian. Like, all right.
And I'm going to skip most of the Khuldoon. They get some cool lore shit, some cool laboratory shit. They get the 2 extra paths. Their 3-dot merit very much matters.
Yeah.
Because it's some hardcore buffs to Elemental Mastery. And the one that I'm going to call out is Elemental Mastery 5. Anytime they summon an Elemental, they get a +2 to their stock NPC rating. So let's talk a little bit about where power is too much and where it isn't. Because +2 means that these stock NPCs are rank 8. So, for example, a fire elemental who explicitly has a spec in throwing fireballs is bidding a 21 to throw fireballs at base, just by existing. There are things that will buff them. They can get up to a 23 without much trouble. Not much higher without like a
Some like off the top of my head, you can hit 24. Getting a lot higher than that is going to be hard.
Point being that it was very hard to break 20 before this. It was very hard, and 20 is
unstuck NPCs.
Yes, and 20 was the point at which a lot of the primary dodge builds were laughing at you. It would be a problem if anyone could hit this level. But it is important that people can hit this level. Mm-hmm. One of the main frustrations that people have with this game is that it is predictable, that it is safe. It would not be good if anyone could bid 24 on Elemental Mastery 5. If that were true, Elemental Mastery 5 would be too good. But if no one can hit 24, then as soon as someone activates Elemental Mastery 5, all of the AT hitters decide, okay, I can ignore you now. It is very, very good that someone can say, you're not allowed to ignore me, motherfucker. There should always be that element of risk. Yeah. And for the record, that 3-point merit has like 3 other effects.
It does a lot. Shannon, do you want to start on this one? Do you have anything you want to say on it?
No.
Okay. I mean, I love it. I honestly do. I think I love it. It's such a good idea. The Khulduin were so fucking boring before. There was nothing interesting about them mechanically. They were just kind of another cookie cutter. Hey, we get some magic bloodline.
And they lost vicissitude for it.
Now, though, having that merit in particular, being the god king of elemental mastery is awesome, because elemental mastery is one of those powers that's actually good and everyone thinks is pretty shitty because it doesn't do straight damage.
It is a very cool skill.
Yeah. And if you know how to use it effectively, which if you're playing a Khulduin, you probably do, you're gonna fuck people up with that power, and that's what you're gonna do with just that merit, like flat out. I love it. It was such a good idea. It was so well thought out.
All right. We're on the Venture.
Level 1. Strap in.
Level 1 merit is get your willpower back anytime you retest the social test. That's very good. We've talked about how willpower is cheap in this system, but under those circumstances, that's still very good. Comes at the cost of Aura of Command.
Tough trade.
That's a difficult choice to make. Between those two powers, I'm having trouble making that choice, which anyone who knows how good Aura of Command is. Level 2, really good for your influence monkeys, especially at level 9 where you can't spend the XP on influence. You get 10 free dots to allocate among Fame, Haven, either influence or resources. Ventrue should own the backgrounds game, and Ventrue really do own the backgrounds game. That is very good. Level 2, I don't think we're giving up anything. No? Okay. What are we giving up, level 3? Paragon. Okay. So what I'm about to read means you can't take Paragon. But if you take Primacy of the Blood, then you are immune to the dominate of anyone who is a higher gen of you. And because this is always confusing, I'll just state outright. That means if you're an
generation background.
If you were an 8th gen, then a 9th gen cannot hit you with dominate. I know Joe has a lot to say about this. I'll cover the basics, ask Shannon to talk, and then let Joe close us out. From a general mechanical perspective, making someone good at resisting things is a good idea. A Ventrue should be better at resisting dominate than anyone else. They have more experience at dominate. An effect that automatically ignores a resistance or a power or pretty much anything is generally speaking a bad mechanic. We've had two examples of this. We have had the Knights of the Moon who ignore demontation, which is good because demontation is an uncommon discipline, and the Knights of the Moon specifically fight Malkavians with demontation, and it is a specific range of demontation effects. We've had the Astromites who ignore altogether Assist Defender. That is good. It provides a specific effect where they can attack anyone no matter what. This allows Ventru to ignore any use of the Dominate power from anyone of a higher generation. That is
for the language of this video, we're just for now going to say weaker generation. That is mechanically not factual, but it's easy to
It
understand.
is understood. Anyone of a weaker generation cannot hit you with Dominate. It automatically fails. That is worse than bad. It's uninteresting. I'm not allowed to try. One of the core tenets of the BNS system has been 1 in 3 times I will succeed on a test, no matter how bad I am. There's always a chance. And I'm not even allowed to try. And that's boring. And that's all I can say. Shannon.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring up the 1 in 3 chance thing is a huge thing. And I know sometimes it gets to, it's not really 1 in 3 with overbid or anything like that, but specifically there is a chance.
If you focus in it, especially.
If you focus in it, there is still a chance that you can do this thing, no matter who you're up against.
No matter how powerful.
Exactly. So taking that away is a big thing. I think it would have been maybe interesting if it was specifically Ventru of a weaker blood, rather than all vampire, but that gets vampires, but that gets really specific, but it's more dominion over all Ventrus. But that's just something I thought of on the fly.
Yeah, and then that's something absolutely. I think it's a good point.
And yes, for people asking, this is very much a throwback to older.
I've got all the
comments.
So the last rant I had, I limited myself to 2 minutes. I'm not going to do that now. If you're interested in this video, just wait.
I'm going to call it.
Maybe. I hate this. I don't just dislike it. I fucking hate this. I had a couple hour-long argument with Rob and Jacob today about it, and a bunch of other people were involved too. I hate it. I hate it from the top of its pitchfork to the bottom of its hose. And I'm going to talk about, because I have a few reasons why. And I want to, before I go on this rant of how much I fucking hate this mechanic, I do want to say, I do like this book. I don't want to give the impression that I'm shitting on this book. I really was pleased by it, and I don't want to just shit on it. With that said, a lot of you asked the question, hey, isn't that a throwback to the old system? Yeah, that's a bad thing. That's a really fucking bad thing. See, I ignored OWAD and refused to play it for a long time because one of the first mechanics I learned about it was dominate. And I learned that you can't dominate people of a more powerful generation than you. And I immediately did not give a fuck about the game. The reason for that gets really deep into the philosophy of being a storyteller. And really, it's a complex question of game balance and player interest and a lot of other things. But what I'll boil it down to is a conversation I had when the BNS system first came out, which is the inimitable Kate Pope said, 1 out of 9 times a baby can flip a semi. And that's a really, really silly and extreme interpretation of the system, but that's actually important. See, the thing that drew me into OWAD, the reason why I fell in love with the BNS system, and I still to this day hold that in terms of LARP mechanics, comfortably the best. That's not a fun thing for me to say, having written a couple of LARPs now. But the BNS core system is flat out the best LARP ever written, mechanically speaking. And honestly, it's not close. Nobody else is close. And the reason for that...
Someday Simbarum will write a LARP.
Then everything's over. The reason for that is because there is always risk. There's always an element of chance. I was running around Russell's Toreador build last Chronicle, flat out to just be an arrogant dick about it. I could comfortably solo the average game. Just that was it. But the reason why I, besides trying to be a good player, the reason why I didn't roll around starting fights with entire games is because it only takes one. It takes one good chop, one lucky throw, one happenstance for the most powerful characters in the world to fucking die. And that's really important. Because I try to restrict myself to be a responsible player. I think a lot of people watching this video do. But that's still a problem if you have to do that. A system should be capable of enforcing that behavior mechanically. Not because players can't be trusted, because I honestly believe most players can. I don't trust them as a player, but as a storyteller, I trust most of my players. But having uncertainty baked into the system is a huge deal, because it means even if you were a raging dickhole, 1 out of 9 times that baby's going to flip that semi, and you're going to go home and build a new character sheet. And that's really, really important to me. I think it's one of the fundamental things that makes By Night Studios such an incredible system, and it's the thing that this mechanic removes. Now, yes, my mechanically apt friends will argue it only removes for a specific power in specific situations, under specific circumstances, and you are correct. This mechanic is not game-breaking. It just makes me angry, because it fundamentally violates the thing that BNS does the best, which is creating uncertainty. And this mechanic removes uncertainty, which is the worst thing you can do in a political art. I hate this power more than I hate any power I've ever read in the Masquerade system. I will go to my dying fucking day hating it, and everyone who points out, well, that was the thing in the old system, yeah, that's why I didn't play that system. I fucking hate this mechanic. All of that said, I do not think it's game-breaking. I do not think it makes this book unplayable. I hate this mechanic, and I'm not uncomfortable playing in a Chronicle that has it in it. Rant. I made it under 5, didn't I?
You did. And yeah, I agree with everything that was said there. And I don't think there's anything more to be said. So I'm going to skim Crusader. Just 1 point merit is.
Make a recommendation. Because it is nearly 12:30. That we just finished merits tonight.
We might do techniques tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I have to be up at 6.
That's fine.
We'll finish the merits here for sure, and then
We'll see where we are.
we'll just do our general rants and we're gonna do the very end of the video.
Yes.
So each of them will.
And then maybe we sign on back again tomorrow to talk about techniques.
Cool. In case you're not sure, we're pretty obviously winging this. Real quick to answer Josh Songer's question, the reason why I don't hate the other immunity effect that's come up so far, which is the Knight of Immunity effect, is because it affects 2 very specific powers, rather than an entire tree of the most powerful discipline in the game. I'm okay. If this power said, mesmerism doesn't work on you from people of weaker gen, dope. That's a great power. That's a great merit. Because I can still fuck you with Dominate. But when Dominate is as core to the game's meta as it is, and it remains in this book, removing that from things that can affect your character make you objectively better than people of a weaker generation, which is bad.
I mentioned 2 immunities that have been brought up so far. One is the Assamite immunity to assist defender, which is a very specific mechanic that has an excellent addition to flavor.
Yeah.
And the second is the Knight of the Moon immunity to demontation, which, for the record, you are paying 5 merits for, 2 to exist as a Knight of the Moon, 3 for the immunity, which is only an immunity to the level 1 through 5 powers of demontation plus techniques.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot,
Yeah.
but is an uncommon discipline amongst a very specific group for a very specific purpose of flavor. You are the hunter and the anathema to the insane Malkavian.
The other thing is, honestly, Total Insanity is a power I've wanted nerfed for a really long time, and anything that
That's
makes
also
Total
true.
Insanity less crazy good, I'm willing to kind of
Okay.
for.
So Crusaders, level 1 point is fine, not really worth talking about. Level 2 point, you get Potence in Clan, emphasizing the fact that a lot more in-clan merits this time, and Crusader,
Potence is neat.
Potence, Fortitude, Dominate, and Auspex in Clan. Yeah, Crusaders are worth talking about.
If they'd made this merit celerity, Crusaders would just run away with the game. They made it Potence, and the Crusaders are just really, really good.
George has asked a good question. George has asked a question, which is Slippery Customer still an auto by merit? And I want to take a second to talk about this question, because I think no. I think no for two reasons. One, there are enough interesting and really good merits amongst clans that a set of all clan disciplines plus one or two very specific generic or sect merits is a good build that does not need dodge beyond the 15 required to be immune to overgrade. And the second reason is that offensive tests we've talked about the numbers going up in this game, and dodge has not gone up. It used to be that the dodge meta was the winning meta. You were primarily
For my football fans, offense wins game, defense wins championships.
You were primarily successful by focusing on your dodge. And if you were a thug, then you did everything you could to boost your offense, but you knew that if they focused on dodge, then they won. Slippery Customer is still very, very good. And getting +3 for 2 merit points will never not be a bad decision. But I think we have gotten to the point where I do not assume you are wrong if you didn't buy Slippery Customer. I will always recommend Slippery Customer. Slippery Customer is still good on every build. But Slippery Customer is not the automatic purchase it once was.
Shannon?
I'm just yawning.
Anything you want to add to that, or are you pretty much in accord? Yep. So the very, very quick point that I'm going to make on that, I talked a little bit earlier about the idea of opportunity cost vis-a-vis merits versus XP. And I've seen it kind of referenced, especially with George's question, but in a couple other places here. At low XP, XP is your opportunity cost representation. You know, for example, at the Chronicle we're about to start, shameless plug, what WPI, you can join it with your own game. It'll be really fun. It's better than who you currently play with. Skipping that though, at low XP, you know, for example, 120 XP, you come in with one discipline at 5, probably 2 of them at 3, and a lot of other utility. If you're a very specialized build, you might come in with 2 disciplines at 5 and literally not a goddamn thing else on your sheet. It hurts. What's important to understand there is that at all XP levels, merits are differentiators, but at high XP levels, that's it. It's just merits. They are the delineation. Because if you have 650 XP to spend, you got everything. Everything you could want for your build. The only thing that matters are the things that have built-in opportunity cost, which is why Slippery Customer was the best merit in the game. Now, I think, and I would argue, and I will argue, it's probably still the best merit in the game. The difference is Slippery Customer is now not the only merit in the game. And Jacob kind of alluded to that with, I won't assume you're wrong. Because flat out, in the BNS system, if you're playing above 200 XP and you don't have Slippery Customer on your sheet, I assume you built your character to interact with plot, and that's really cool. And if I need to kill your character, I'll send you a postcard. It's just too good. It honestly is. In the core book, if there's any one mechanic that's probably too good, it's probably Slippery Customer. It's crazy powerful. The benefit to cost is just insane, and it's really complicated to get into. But if both of you are spending your XP perfectly, the 2 merit cost for Slippery Customer is about 40 XP for your opponent. That's amazing. The new system has so many good 2-dot merits that it's no longer mandatory, and that's really awesome and important. But I still think you should probably have Slippery Customer. Brent made the point that Iron Will is still better than Slippery Customer. There are a lot of people who have that school of thought because of Dominate. I disagree because of some details about sort of action economy and the way celerity plays into the
And
argument.
just the way that a lot of numbers are going to work out with some specific merits you want to take in any given clan. 2 merits will fit more often than 3.
Yeah.
Fitting in a 3 merit build to something you've already put together means a lot more difficult choices.
Like Iron Will is comfortably the best 3-dot merit, but when you're comparing benefit to cost, Slippery Customer wins because of the fact that flat out I can shut down Dominate in other ways. I can't get those 3 points of dodge in other ways. I can Tyrant's Gaze your Dominate away. I'll still have Slippery Customer.
Okay.
That rant aside.
The other Crusader merit worth talking about, level 3, and the only other thing that is fundamentally breaking the technique Elder Powers rule. Crusaders can take a technique if they're a 7th gen, or an extra Elder Power if they're an 8th gen, or an Elder Power if they're fucking 9th gen, because why not, of Fortitude. So the Fortitude Elder Powers, maybe they're adding other Elder Powers. We don't know. Maybe they're just adding Luminary Powers. That scares me. And again, this doesn't apply to Luminary Powers, and that's probably good. But the Fortitude Elder Powers currently are nothing to write home about. Personal armor.
They're not bad. They're just not special.
Personal armor is fine, and retain the
Repair the Undead Flesh.
repairing the undead flesh is very important if you don't have access to Fortitude techniques. But the reason this is important is 7th gen, the main drawback to being a 7th gen is you don't get access to healing techniques, because it is very hard to heal as an elder. And having Second Wind or having Will to Survive, either of them, Second Wind maybe edges out a little bit in long term, but having either of those things is incredibly important to dealing with long-term survival and short-term survival. And so that specific exemption for Crusader, very important to being alive as a Crusader. And I'll go ahead and just point that out as another thing that Slippery Customer is not necessarily the end-all be-all of builds. I can put together a sheet now in the Camarilla where I spend 2 merits to be a Crusader, I spend 2 merits to have Potence in Clan, and I spend 3 merits as a 7th gen to have Second Wind, and now I'm a 7th gen with Potence 7, Fortitude 7, Second Wind. I don't really give a shit when I'm bidding for dodge.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Shannon?
No.
Cool. It's really good. I think it's probably too good, but it's really good. And beyond just, it's really good. One of the things that you run into when you're talking about mechanics a lot is that you'll make an assumption that, for example, among Jacob, Shannon, and I, or when we're hanging with like Rob or some of our friends that are really into mechanics, we'll make a statement that seems sort of apropos of nothing, that is based on a lot of shared understanding and knowledge. So, for example, when I'll say something like, Will to Survive is the best technique in the game, when you first glance at the techniques, there are a lot that are better. Like, just in a vacuum, off the top of Denial of Aphrodite's Favor is amazing. Unnatural Grace is amazing. Instinctive Command is amazing. But these all rely on this sort of shared understanding of defense. Offense wins games, defense wins championships, and rely on the shared understanding that eventually, if you are the tank, you will win. It will be slow. It will suck. It'll be embarrassing because you keep fucking losing stuff. But eventually, having won every single fucking chop, the other player's character will die, and they'll look at you with a confused, hurt expression. And I will tell you, as a PvP player, that's the most fun you can have without going to jail.
The thing that sucks about being a 7th gen who doesn't have Elder Fortitude is you walk into that first fight and you're a goddamn badass. Maybe you take, you're pretty good at dodging. You take like 4 ag, and then you're not walking into another fight for the game.
And
with 4 ag on your sheet, with no ability to heal. Now you're going home after an hour at gathering, and you're hoping to hell that no one knows where your haven is.
And I will say that I said that it might be too good. If I was going to take a nerf hammer to this game, this doesn't even make the top 10. I think it's really, really good, and I think that it enables some complex tanking builds that weren't possible before. But I also think that defense has gotten its ass kicked in this book, by and large, which means that even though this is really good, it more makes up lost ground than it does create distance.
And if there was one cohesive summary to Joe and I's philosophy in terms of builds, it is that balance is always achieved better when everyone is made good.
Make everyone
when
cool.
everyone is nerfed.
Make everyone.
Everyone's a superhero.
Everyone is.
Everyone.
All right, let's finish up. Let's finish up merits.
Caden, adaptive, 1 point merit. What I'm about to say is really good, but let me point out that it's replacing auspicious, which you pick a discipline and you always get the focus benefit of that discipline. Always, forever. Every power of that discipline, you get the focus benefit. So
That's really, really good.
holy shit, but also you're losing auspicious.
Which the only reason auspicious isn't the best merit in the game is because I am of the opinion that a clan merit can't be the best. Which is to say that it's objectively fucking incredible, but not everyone can have it.
One of the big things to say here is that the sort of point of Caden has always been that they are the most flexible powerhouses in the game. They're capable of bringing to bear this immense raw power that can be crafted to anything you want it to be, and in exchange they face enormous social sanction. The only reason the Caitiff don't own the universe is because the Camarilla knew to declare war on them.
It's because everyone, including the other Caitiff, are united against them. And Brent, you mentioned in the comments, and I want to address it here, this is the merit you take if you're a mental social Caitiff.
Yeah.
Because it's just...
Yeah, you don't take this on a physical.
Oh yeah.
No. Auspicious wins physical everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. Level 2, you can turn necromancy or thaumaturgy into one of your incline disciplines, or kineticism, which along with spiritus are the 2 disciplines we know will make it. 2 of 3 are the disciplines that we know will make it into the next book.
Now,
Go ahead.
some of you watching this are like, what? 2 merits for... and some of you watching it don't really get why that's important. There are a lot of really, 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 really ridiculous builds that the Caitiff were cut off from because they couldn't touch Thom. And for a lot of us, of sort of the mechanically inclined, that was it in terms of limits on Caitiff, mechanically speaking. They were God's chosen children, except Thom. Now they have Thom. That's really scary. There are a lot of complex builds that are enabled for it. There are a lot of simple builds that are enabled from it. Just flat out, this merit is so goddamn cool, and it makes Caitiff so goddamn cool. And because of the fact that Caitiff, as a narratively, are treated like shit and are basically killed on sight, I love this. If this was given to like a Ventru or a Tremere or a Malk, I would hate this merit. It's true. Not Tremere is not a good example, but a Ventru, a Malk, someone like that, I would hate this merit. Because it's given to the Caitiff, who already suffer like crazy. This is amazing. You're saving 2 merits off of the normal purchase for Thom, 3 merits off the normal purchase for Necromancy, which, by the way, Necromancy is more expensive than Thom. Bet you thought they were the same. They're not. Necromancy is 5 goddamn merits.
So, yeah, worse in every way. Pay more for less.
If this was attached to any other clan, it would be too good. Because it's attached to the Caitiffs, I love it.
And it's important to notice that both cool for mechanics and cool for flavor. You do not get rituals from this because you have not gained necromancy or thaumaturgy. You have developed your own spontaneous pseudo discipline that has replicated a thaumaturgy path.
Which sounds like a
Which is-
really shitty defense an Anarch game
fucking,
once.
it's fucking
Oh my
amazing.
God.
Because
Thaumaturgy,
it's
what?
everything that the Cadiff are. It's a sickening perversion of what the Giovanni and the Cappadocians and the Tremere and everyone else are proud of, that is somehow just as good and allows the Cadiff to be fucking horrifying with it, but also pisses everyone off. It's so good. And also, yeah, it does still have limits on it, but opens up a wide range of builds to Cadiff, because fundamentally Cadiff should be the ones who can put any build together and get as far as they can before the forces of the Camarilla unite and squash them down.
The short version before we go into the rare clans, Cadiff were always great. They're still great. They were always probably mechanically the best. Now they're still probably mechanically the best.
And on that note,
Also,
yeah.
that second merit, it doesn't say no moreness.
Good point. Yeah.
Wow!
Good. Wow. Oh.
Good catch!
Ooh. Yeah. Fourth horseman on a kid. Oh.
If any of you are watching this video, uh-oh! That's not good.
For the record,
Hey, I know that I have at least 2 BNS writers currently watching the stream. Could you do something about that?
for the record, that's the sort of thing that when I came up with in 2.5 weeks, I would have hidden for another 6 months.
So Jacob and I have a very, very specific class of mechanical question, which is you can't ever ask this again, which is a question that we'll pose to one another where we realize, hey, I think we just ate this system, but if no one talks about it, I think we're okay.
And Shannon just came up with it 4 weeks before I would have. And
I did it on a live stream.
Okay. So
Cadiff can have more this, you heard it here, folks.
So the level 3 Cadiff merit is maybe a problem, but we won't know if it's a problem for another couple of weeks because
This
we
is
have
going
to
to be one
run
of those
down
things that
all the
emerge in the meta.
possibilities. If you are planning to write an addenda,
Don't.
probably don't. But if you have to,
Don't. Listen, DNS has had some problems with mechanics in the past. They're better at this than you. You suck. Don't write addenda.
the general rule for addenda is the more things that you force your player to read in order to participate in your game, the more likely they are to just go to a game where they don't have to do that much homework. That being said, if you have to write an addenda, it's probably going to show up here. Because Cadiff, with 3 merits, can take any 1 or 2 point merit from another clan. Not counting bloodline merits, which let's clear up your misunderstandings here. Bloodline merit does not mean one of the 1, 2, or 3 dot merits assigned to a bloodline. It means the merit that you pay to be a member of that bloodline. So it takes 2 merit points to be a crusader. Those 2 merit points are the crusader bloodline merit. So, for example, a Cadiff can get Peace That Remains, 3 point merit, and get that level 1 Assamite merit that says they automatically ignore Assist Defender. Or they can get that level 2, Bruja merit that gives them that free retest against powers that are compelling their behavior. So that's pretty significant. I'll point out that it's a 3 dot merit that only gives you a 1 or a 2 dot merit. It does not give you both, and it does not give you a 3 dot merit. So they're pretty clearly being careful here. I'm not going to know whether or not this is horrifying until I go through every possible combination and see what you could do with this. But if there's a game-breaking thing,
Probably.
it's probably this.
And just to clarify, just in general, This is where I always get really nervous. Anytime any group,
Like a check.
anytime any group in a game has the you can yoink a mechanic from someone else, that's always where the game cracks. Yeah, just flat out in even the best run systems, they almost always break when someone gets a carte blanche.
Okay. That's about it for Cato.
Yep.
Any other thoughts?
Still,
Okay.
they're still God's chosen.
Bali.
All right, so now we're moving into rare clans. So what we're going to do in the rare clans, we're going to do a speed run.
Yeah.
Once we finish up the speed run, we're going to very quickly do our last 5-minute closing statements, and then Shannon will go to bed, and I will play Xbox and drink for the rest of the night.
So Bali got a couple of things. I feel like we can dispense with the Bali.
I have a whole Demonia.
Sum that out into Inferno. But that'll be at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bali got some good stuff. If you felt like Bali and Infernalists in general were being given the short shrift, you were correct, and B, it's been fixed. So, Devin's spell slinging is a 3-point merit, so the caitiff can't take it, which is good.
Yeah.
Because that'd be rough.
You're weird.
The Cappadocian, funny merit, which I love, is as a 2-point merit, they automatically get alt ID for Giovanni, which
How is that better?
it's stupid, and why would you do it? But I love it. Just inherently, half of all Cappadocian or I would love it if in a chronicle, the High Council of the Giovanni, one of them got up and said, "I am a Cappadocian and I betray you," and all of them said, "Wait, is there any Giovanni in this room?" And it just turned out that there were no leaders of the Giovanni anymore.
It's pretty popular to run all of the Council of 7 from here are secretly Salubri now, but that Cappadocian merit is really, really stupid. In a good way, in an honestly good. I like it, and I think it does good things for the game. But I also think it's really fucking silly.
And on the subject of bad mechanics, I do want to call this one out.
You were killed for not being Giovanni.
The Cappadocians get a 3-point merit that is their recognition of their coming death. Anytime they relent to a challenge that was not initiated for the specific purpose of abusing this mechanic, they and if it doesn't kill them or put them in torpor, they regain a willpower. The problem being that A, regaining willpower has become pretty cheap, and B, relenting to a test, if the other person outbids you, is an automatic exceptional success. Relenting is as if they won the chop outright. So you are suffering a significant consequence in exchange for a willpower. And you've also paid 3 merit points for this. This is a prime example of something that sounded cool, and then they overreacted and, well, we can't make this too good.
Which is just necromancy in a nutshell.
The Lamia got some love.
Unfortunately, they can't take it.
So we mentioned at the top of the video, one of the problems that comes up with a few of the rare clans is that some of them cause 6 merits to play. And all their good merits are 2+.
You can buy the 1-point merit, but unless you manage to sweet talk your storyteller into either downgrading the rarity cost or just outright cheating in terms of what restricted clan as a general merit is and isn't allowed to do, you're not getting very far.
Which isn't actually a flaw in the system. One of the things we talked about at the top of this video, this book is very, very clearly more for storytellers than it is for players. And for storytellers, the stuff we're about to read is awesome.
Lamia are supposed to be rare. They're supposed to be prohibitively rare. There was a fucking genocide. If 30 people in a chronicle played a Lamia, you'd think, wow, that genocide didn't take.
Yeah.
It's important that these guys be rare and that their special things be especially rare. But yeah, some of the stuff I'm about to read, players will not benefit from. Their 1 point merit, they get the appearance focus, and for a simple action, uncontested, they can gain the gaze and focus of any person.
Within 6 steps?
No, yes, within 6 steps. Big deal. Getting gaze and focus. Difficult. Big deal. Big deal. Level 2, Lamia are bodyguards, and if they assist defend against an attack and that attack fails, they get to automatically counterattack for no action. Action economy is a big deal. Getting a free attack against someone is always going to be good. Lamia are very good at attacking. Whole big deal. And Blessing of the Gorgons gives you Serpentis as an incline discipline. Not sure I get that. Might have to do with a whole lot of background that I don't know, because BNS is the first time I've played Masquerade, and I will never, ever read Masquerade.
Gorgons. So the Gorgons were
Snaky.
Yeah.
ladies.
Just for the record, because it's come up a lot in the chat, if your point is, well, that was from the old system, it sucked.
They rewrote
It was rapey.
The old system was real bad.
So don't care.
Yeah. Like, the reason we're as hard as we are on BNS is because flat out, BNS did what I thought was impossible and made that game really, really fun to play.
Samedi. They get
1 dot seems like it's similar to a gift in APOC where you like have your ancestor come and
Yeah.
like
there's a little bit of similarity, but it is
less dramatically good.
yeah.
And it's also, yeah, it is quite good. Okay, Samedi real quick. Level 1, you get some skill bonuses. Good, not a lot to write home about. Level 2, you get a really good zombie retainer who is still not very good. Probably don't get it. Level 3 is the one you play Samedi for. You get the Infernalism Resurrection, except better. If you are killed, you turn to ash and then resurrect in your haven or your Elysium, your choice. So you're not dealing with the fact of you are still surrounded by people who want to kill you, and they killed you once, so probably they can do it again. And you are in a safe place, and the restriction is you have 1 month to kill the person who killed you, which you know the person who killed you. And
you give me a month and a target, I'll give you a matchbox full of ash.
And there are tracking rules now. So George points out that the zombie can be remade faster. That's true. That's one of the major exceptions to the retainer problems.
I passionately object to you calling it the replacement problem, because I think that replacement is the only reason why I haven't murdered anyone.
Okay, the replacement obstacle.
But yeah, but I don't want to get into that argument.
But I will point out that it's still not a very good retainer. It's pretty weak. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's
fine. But 2 merits. I'm not writing home about it. So yeah. Now the main restriction to this 3 dot merit, because yeah, you give me a month to kill someone, I'll kill someone. After you use it, you lose it. The merit is gone. You can get it back with a heroic quest, which the quest system is now in APOC. I think that's good.
We'll make that the subject of a later video.
That has to be its whole own video. But just for the record, there is, no matter what happens, a major drawback to this power, but also it is very good, which is important because Samedi needed love.
Which I do want to take a real quick second to note, like, we've been going for more than 3 hours now, and more than like 15 to 20 people on average have stayed checked into this, which for a mechanical discussion is crazy to me. So if there's like a topic you want us to cover in a future video, fucking comment. I live here now.
He does. It's wonderful. We love him.
I'm not busy.
Okay. Keeping it moving. Ravnos, 1 point merit. Really, all that we need to talk about. Horrid reality is good at combat again.
There's actually
Ever.
something still.
You're right. We will talk about when you use hard reality in combat. If you did that, you were wrong before, and now you're right. Because for 1 merit point, it is social v social. So just a real quick explanation. The primary problem with a lot of the mental and social powers in Masquerade is that they were mental or social bids versus physical. The objection being that a mental or a social bid is going to cap out under 20 unless you spend a whole lot of merit points and some very specific and very limited disciplines in order to get your wildcard bonuses. But your physical plus dodge can hit a 25 if you try a little bit, and a 30 if you try really fucking hard. So hard reality to inflict direct damage. The problem was that you were always losing on ties. Always, every fucking time. Now, a Ravnos uses horrid form and attacks you on social v social. And yes, Ravnos are still an ethnic slur and fucking excuse for genocide, and that's its whole own problem. I'll just point out that among the vampire games, BNS is the least racist, and we'll go ahead and make do with what we've got.
Well, and you know what? I actually want to go separately because I know at least a couple of BNS writers still on this stream, and I really want you to get the point. BNS has done a lot of really, really good things for the social consciousness of this game. Malkavians, in particular, the creation of derangement traits and mechanical derangements was a really big deal in
Separating
making
them from true mental illness.
and really just functionally removing the concept of fish malk in the sense of a malk who abuses and mistreats people who have mental or social disorders. I think BNS has done great strides for that. I will say that the main problem of BNS with regards to Ravnos is that there's not much about them, and what is about them is just sort of reference to old material. And the old material about Ravnos is fucking racist. So it's not BNS's fault when we complain about Ravnos. I think I'm really excited to see them write more about the Ravnos because I'm so optimistic about what they did with other problematic elements. But flat out, yeah, if your hot take is Ravnos is pretty racist.
And yeah, it does need to be said, a lot of good things happened in BNS. It didn't go far enough. The two obvious ones are Ravnos is Romani stereotype, and Assamites is blackface. A lot of stuff got fixed. And the material that was there was presented in such a way that made it easier to fix the bad things. Our chronicle in WPI ignores Assamites blackface because, very importantly, that's not the clan flaw anymore. That's just a flavor note that is easy to ignore.
Also,
So
that is a flaw. Is fucking
Yeah.
your
So-
flaw is what?
Yeah.
So yeah,
So the point that we're getting at here is
a lot of
yes, we are going to criticize some social consciousness problems of the system and of the game. I really want that to be understood that at no point are we saying BNS is racist. Generally speaking, what we're saying is, hey, BNS, great job clearing up that thing. If you get some time, could you get the other thing?
Okay, so Ravnos 3 merit. They are traumatized by the death of their founder, which I get it.
Reason to be traumatized.
Good point. So now Ravnos advised this 3 merit called Jaded Existence. Again, holy shit, this naming. A++. An immunity, which we've talked about a little.
The
And
Ravnos get a lot of immunity.
I'm a little less happy about this one than I was about the 2 that I excused. If you are targeted by chemistry powers ranging 1 through 5, including techniques, they automatically fail with no effect, and you receive a +3 wildcard bonus when defending against Elder or Luminary chemistry powers. You still see the illusions, but know what is real and what is fake, which, let's point out, that's the first time that's been true. Every time it's been either you don't see the illusions or you believe the illusions.
And that's actually a really important thing. Ravnos, one of the great weaknesses of chemistry, was just convincing you to behave like your illusion was fake. As soon as you walk through your wall, it stops being there. That's a mechanic a lot of people don't know about that, and it's a big deal. So this power actually has a lot of application.
And it's, you know, one of the things is we talked about it a bit with demontation, but all of the Ravnos Elder powers are modifications to other Ravnos powers. And so immunity to the 1 through 5 chemistry powers, it's a big deal. And the chemistry powers are very much about being able to sell an illusion. Being able to blank check ignore it, I don't love that. Now it's a 3-point merit on top of a relatively uncommon clan, so I can live with it. But yeah, I don't like this.
You remember my rant from before with the Ventru? Just copy paste that. This is the same. Every time a game gets more or less uncertain, it gets worse, and that is just a truism of writing games.
Now, what we said about demontation is still true. This is an uncommon discipline that a relatively
Even more
small group of people will have.
Yeah.
And it's a small subsect that will have access to this merit, as opposed to a pillar clan ignoring a common discipline.
Not just a common, the best discipline. Like,
Yes.
if you're on this stream still and you think Dominate isn't the best discipline, stop it.
But
Stop
yeah,
it.
I don't like this.
But yeah, no, yeah.
The Brahmin, I remember, had a really good thing. With 1 dot, they can see into the Shadowlands, the Ember of the Dreaming, which, like, cool, but why would you? Their chemistry illusions are a little bit better. When you use a chemistry or aspects power to target another character, it does not count against their maximum attack slots. This has come into play. Attack
Make that
slots
part of your
have been,
because
yeah.
it's a big change.
Sure. Salubri. Spend blood to flash from your eyeball and get an automatic. So basically, Salubri get a 1-point merit that is bullseye for Auspex, but once again, which is still really big. Really big. Automatic success on an Auspex check, which, to name a couple, are perception for Diablerie, breaking a really important person's obfuscate, throwing psychic assault, or like bullseye was an apt metaphor, upgrading a normal success to an exceptional success. There are some big deals there. Salubri did not need as much love as a lot of the other bloodlines.
Valerian are already really good.
They have Valerian Fortitude and Auspex.
When are we talking? Shannon, tell us about how cool Salubri are.
Salubri are fantastic.
For those of you who don't know, Shannon currently plays an 8th gen Salubri that would solo the average 5th gen.
But I don't, because everyone loves me and I don't.
It's a real silly game.
You've got
great because you get a physical attack that does not require traits, so you can dump your traits and still crit. All you have to do is put points into tokens so that you're hitting hard, and it doesn't matter if you're actually only hitting on like a 12. You have Fortitude in Clan, which is just A+. And then there is, of course, Auspex, which once you get up to 8th gen and you get Psychic Assault, no one remembers that you're a mental build, so you just fuck them up with your brain, and they just think, oh, she's just a thug, she's just gonna hit me alive, not melt my brain or dominate me or any of those kind of things. So it is just objectively great and super easy to just do ag, because you can just get flaming, and since you're not worrying about traits, you're just like, I hate you, it's on fire.
Yeah, it just, so for those of you who followed my build talks and some of the documents I put out in the past, my favorite build in the world is the tell me what you're bad at build. It's what I did with Russell. And if you never fought Russell, that means your character survived.
I did with my.
But jokes and egoism aside, flat out, tell me what you're bad at builds are the best.
The
Just
ability to
functionally.
target your weak
Exactly.
point.
And Salubri do that at the weakest gen cheapest.
Also, they're also really easy to target because of their clan weakness.
Yeah.
With the warriors, you can't have herd, and that's a huge fucking thing. So if you have no downtime to feed, you just fucked over a Salubri, which I think is fantastic, and I've actually told people to do that to me because it's fun.
So yeah, that's our Salubri or dope. Now we're going to talk about the new Salubri powers.
Back to the merits. That 1 point merit, I would say my first instinct was it wasn't good enough, that it was overly prohibitive, using it only once a game. And then I thought about it, and Salubri are already good enough that, yeah, it should probably be limited to once a game. Using it gives you Death Sight, which is, it's fun. Death Sight is not a significant penalty, but it's a cool flavor note.
Actually, as flaws go, it's one of my favorites. I think
it's just enjoyable.
Yeah, it's very informative to your character without being punitive, which I think is awesome.
And Salubri don't really get much in turn. Like, they get some cool merits, but they're mainly infernal focused merits.
Yeah, talk about their 3 dot here.
Right. So yeah, the 2 point merit is just another I fight infernals,
which is great because it doesn't conflict with any of the X of demon hunting.
It's good. It's fun. It's, if you're a demon hunter, you want this.
Salubri continue to run the Inquisition.
And then level 3, you spend a blood, spend a simple action, and trace a divine thing onto a weapon, and that weapon gets a 3rd equipment quality, which it used to be very rare to put 3 equipment qualities onto a weapon, and now there are, I think, a total of 5 effects in the game. It only works for you. That's a very big deal. Only works for you. Good thing. I feel like that's still an okay number. I feel like it's gotten a lot more common, but Brawl was very good. Brawl was better than melee or firearms. And so having things that boost melee and firearms is a good thing. Bringing those outside of just either you're an Asimite or you're a brawler or you don't engage in physical combat. Yeah. It's good to go outside of that.
And I mean, and also looking at them, they have very specific qualities that you can add.
Yeah, it is a limited list.
Including accurate and brutal for melee weapons, which I think.
And spread on melee.
Yeah, so that's actually what I wanted to take a second to address. Go ahead, talk first.
With accurate and brutal, you're already not worrying about traits most of the time with attacks. So they're most likely not going to be the most useful for you. Maybe
as a Salubri.
Yeah. But spread looks cool. Also, armor piercing, most things.
You should have armor piercing. So Brent has asked it a couple of times, and the question has come up to me. I think I can't remember. Somebody else sent me an email about it earlier. This specific power, applying spread to your melee attack. What does that do with Vengeance of Samiel? So I looked up the power of Vengeance of Samiel, and I know that you want me to pronounce it Samiel. You're wrong. It's Samiel. Anyway, so I looked up the power, and I would argue, I as a mechanical person would argue, no. Specifically because it talks about once per turn you can spend 1 blood and use a standard action to make a melee or brawl attack against another character. And that, I think, is the most definitive language we have on the question. Now, what I will say is that if you, as a player or storyteller, disagree with me, I already know the arguments you're going to make, and I actually think they're pretty good. If a storyteller said, yes, you can vengeance spread, I would think they're probably wrong, but they're making a very reasonable argument. And that's the challenge. It really just comes down to what reading do you think is best for the game overall as a storyteller. I will argue it's best for the game that you get to spread vengeance because
You're spreading
For the
vengeance.
record,
hang on,
go ahead.
because the other combat clans all got more special in this book. The Bruja always crit, the Assamites can't be AD'd against, everyone got a little more special. And I think that the Salubri were good before. They were. In the Sabbat especially, they were flat out good. But I think this is the one place where they really get special attention in this book. They get some techniques later that aren't bad, but aren't awesome compared to some of the really ridiculous stuff that came up. And just in general, I think flat out, if it doesn't ruin the game, use the interpretation that makes people cool. And I think that it doesn't ruin the game to Vengeance 3. Don't get me wrong, Vengeancing with spread is great, but it's also something that if I as a player know you can do, isn't hard to negate. I just need to be 2 steps away from my nearest ally, and you can't fuck with me. And that's not hard to do. So it's cool, but it's easy to negate for someone who's mechanically apt, so it's not really unbalanced. That would be my reading I want the game to be cool, but I as a mechanical, and that's why I wanted to make the argument at the beginning, I as someone who's really into like the text of the mechanic would say that textually you're probably wrong.
One of the things I'll inject here is this is a really good place for submitting feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback is generally not useful when it is your opinion on just, I don't like how this makes me feel.
Just for the record, those of you who send that feedback for the games that I've had you playtest, I deleted it.
But pointing out specific cases where I have noticed this power interaction is significant to the game, and I want to just call it, not even necessarily tell you you're wrong, but just make sure, hey, have you thought through all of the implications of this?
What we said
that
earlier.
is a really good thing to submit.
What we said earlier. Good mechanics make you win and lose. Bad mechanics are the ones that are ambiguous.
Okay, healers. You get
my healers. We're so much better.
Healers.
We were already awesome.
Healers needed love. Healers really did need love. 1 point merit every time you use Corpore Sano, Obey 3, to heal. You heal 1 additional health. So that's if you take the focus, which why wouldn't you if you're playing a fucking healer? You spend 1 blood, you heal 2 ag.
Dos Agos.
Touched by an angel, disease, people like you, I don't care.
Yeah, they're not bad.
It's fine.
It's
fine.
It doesn't deserve that. Be nice.
And then the Master's Path, which is really good and is one of the main places where it comes up against you usually can't take it because of rarity, which is you get the Golconda Seeker merit, but you get 2 benefits instead of 1, which let me remind you, Golconda Seeker is you ignore your clan flaw, which ignoring the killer flaw. You get an extra 2 blood per turn, which on top of I'm healing 2 ag per blood spent. And the third one that's like you'd spend less blood to wake up or what, I don't care. But that's really good. But spending 3 merit points on top of the merit points you're spending to exist as a healer that's probably not an option. So it's good.
Would that be your full 7?
That might be more than you can. If you're
Salubri
spending, if Salubri is 2 and healer is 4, then that's 6 to exist. You spend the 1 to get healing, and that's it. So healers overall, very good benefits. We'll talk about healers more next time when we talk about technique.
That's where they really.
Obeya got a lot of buffs, but that's good. Daughters of Cacophony. there's one thing in particular to talk about the daughters, which is with initiative, daughters for 1 point merit can use their social attribute for their initiative. This goes into things we've already talked about with the Truha, with other groups where this would be bad if it were a technique or a discipline. If it were generally available, a general merit, this would be too much. There need to be those kinds of restrictions where if you don't take mental or physical, your payoff is you lose initiative. You have to make those decisions. But there are certain clans and bloodlines where it is so prohibitive as to make it painful to play that clan. And the Daughters of Cacophony, which were Melpomene, Presence, and Fortitude, suffer more than anyone else. And so allowing them to not always lose an initiative, that is the right choice.
Yeah. Our poor little, in our current Sabbat game, there's like 3 daughters, and they all wait till the very end, and then they cry,
if
and
you're
then they
playing,
just win.
if you're playing in a crew built with a Daughter of Cacophony in mind, you're already taking sort of the steps to negate their lack of initiative. They're the ones who are initiating actions. You use them in specific situations. But playing the Melpomene cannon, pretty boring job. This initiative boost, great.
Gargoyles. 1 dot merit that gives them magic resistance that works against everyone who's in a Tremere, which I love more than anything in the universe. They have arcane runes placed in them by Tremere to make them resist thaumaturgy from anyone who isn't them, because Tremere are fucking smart. It's the coolest, just little, you can have this benefit, but it won't work against the one person you want to kill, but you're not paying that many merits for it, so you're not concerned about what you're losing, and it's just this wonderful, again, for anyone designing a LARP, when you build strengths, build in weaknesses. It's beautiful. I love it.
I just love this power because I know at some point a Tremere, played by me in the WPI Chronicle starting this month, you check it out, contact me, we have documents. I'm going to be playing a Tremere, and I'm going to take credit for that. The first gargoyle I see, like fighting a Setite and resisting their sorcery, be like, I did that shit. We gave that to you. Dominate. Gargoyles suck. No, gargoyles don't suck, but they kind of suck.
Level 2 merit for gargoyles, which a little important considering, gargoyles come from Gangrel, Zmisi, and Nosferatu. You can take Auspex, Analysm, Obfuscate, or Protean as an in-clan. Most of those, like Obfuscate is good, but when you've already got Visceratica 1, whatever. But Protean for 2 merit points on a bloodline that does not have a very good transformative power. You've got Visceratica 4, which is a minor transformative power, and Visceratica 5, which is bad transformative power. And as Shannon just pointed out, gargoyles don't have a way to do it. So getting Protean 2, very big deal. That's really good. Extra in-clan for 2 merit points, smaller list than the Nosferatu, but lower merit cost. Big deal. Big deal. Level 3, nah, it's nothing.
Yeah, we're almost.
That's the end of the merits. Okay.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to close this up because we've been going for almost 4 hours, and like a lot of you are still here, which is
we've covered a quarter of this book. Y'all almost have more of a problem than we do.
So yeah.
They'd be doing this anyway, and I'm just stuck here listening anyway.
So no, flight is 1 point, Adam. So tomorrow, real quick note, because a couple of you pinged me, I'm finishing some editing on some documents tonight. Tomorrow, if you want to know more about the Vampire Chronicles starting in WPI, I will happily give you some documents and some information. We have a really, really fantastic person named Matt Blank, who's going to be our Chronicle manager. We have a lot of new ideas for how clubs should be run and what we're going to do with them, really focused on local, story-driven games about the game that you're playing in physically, because I don't like pretending over email. So yeah, ping me tomorrow when all the documents are done, and I will happily send those out to you. This hasn't been a plug for it, but I'm turning it into one now. So what we're going to networking. So what we're going to do here at the end of this video is each of us is going to get 5 minutes, and I've just got to talk for about 55 more seconds so that it's on an even number. Each of us is going to get 5 minutes to do basically a closing rant. I'm going to have 2 topics. Each of them might have between 1 and 1,000, and we'll each just basically do, this is what I want you to know about this book and about my philosophy and about gaming, whatever, 5 minutes, and let's have fun with it.
We don't know exactly when we'll be back to talk about the rest of this book.
It might be tomorrow, but also
hopefully sometime within the next week we will get to talk about all of the other very cool things and many dumb things.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we're 10. Fuck it, I'll start now. I'll get an extra 7 seconds. I have 2 rants. 1, my pet clans, Toreador, Tremere, and Malk. Okay, let's talk. My second mini rant is going to be about the general subject of what good game design I think looks like. So the first one, this is about this book in particular, the buffs to those 3 clans, because those 3 and Bruja are kind of the clans that for me have always been the most interesting, both narratively and mechanically. And I think the things that happened here for the Tremere in this book, overall the Tremere didn't get any stronger, which means they, in the meta, in the comparison to other clans, functionally got weaker. I think that's not a terrible thing, but it's a frustrating thing for me because I think it comes from some false assumptions, whatever. The Toreador just got better. They were already good, now they're great. I saw a lot of people commenting with the old joke about like no one's actually a Toreador. Now there's a reason to be. The merits that the Toreador get make them important and interesting and strong. You can do so many cool things with Toreador that you just couldn't before. Like when I was playing Russell, it was, as far as I can find, as exactly point by point XP efficient as a sheet can be. And it was still pretty rough in a lot of places that mattered to me. There were a lot of things I felt like I couldn't do, and I think Toreador are better now. There's just a better reason to play them at every gen. So Toreador, I mentioned Tremere, Malk. Malk's got love. They got a lot of love in this book. I don't think they needed it. They were already amazing. But okay, cool, yeah, fuck it. Fucking, yeah, sure, yeah, fine. Malks are better now. They were great. Now just more.
It's not that they needed love, it's that they deserved.
They just got it. But yeah, that's my point. So those are my baby clans, with a shout out to the Bruja, because I really think Bruja were always special, but they weren't special enough. And I think the design of the merits and the things that were done in this system do so much to make them cool again. And I'm very happy for that in my heart. So my second rant, kind of mini, about what I'm talking about when I talk about game design and what I think a balanced game looks like. Why is this an important subject? A lot of people who I talk to about mechanics tend to have this weird impression that I don't know or think about the story that's being told. And obviously, like, emotionally, you're an idiot and I don't like you. But more than that, what's less of a joke is that good mechanics are balls and strikes. They're empirical, they're objective, they're a shared understanding of the reality of the world in which you're playing. And when you all agree on the core reality of what you're doing, you can tell better stories. You can have more drama, you can have more excitement, you can have more suspense, because we all know what could happen, just like in the real world. In the real world, if you pull a gun on me, I'm afraid. And in a game, if I have good mechanics and I understand consequences well, that will do the same thing for me. So the reason why I went at this book pretty adversarially, and the reason why I go against most additions to series, is because those tend to make all of the characters stronger in a lot of ways and remove weaknesses from them. And anytime you make a mechanical system in which there are fewer weaknesses, it's a system where people who are really, really good at mechanics can just kind of ride roughshod over people who aren't. And the suspense and the drama is removed from the game. So I don't like it when systems get added to. I just instinctively am against it. But, and what I want to close this out with, and what I kind of framed this argument to lead to, if you were going to add to my favorite LARP in the world, this is a worthy successor. I didn't want to like it. I didn't expect to like it. But this is a good fucking book. It just, there are a lot of problems. There are a lot of things I don't like. But it's good. It fills in a lot of questions. It makes a lot more curiosity, and it makes me more interested in what other people can do. So yeah, in terms of flavor notes and a lot of the other details, I'd probably argue with you till I was hoarse. Overall, I recommend this book. You should play it.
Okay. Shannon, would you like to go next, or?
Yeah, because you'll give a
Go ahead.
stronger ending. Definitely. So, gonna be kind of scattered here because it is late. But big thing is these are a lot of things that had a lot of just different options that make it kind of exciting to play some of these claims again. Like, my first BNS character was a Malkavian, so I didn't think I'd want to play one again soon. And then with all of this stuff, it's up there. And there are other things, you know, I'm a little sad it came out when it did, because Joan could be doing spread on melee attacks. She would.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. That'd be cool. So yeah, those are definitely some really cool options that add a lot of diversity within the game. With some exceptions, it changes it so you don't look at somebody and say, okay, this is what your merit spread looks like. Unless you're a Bruhan, then, you know, it's kind of obvious. But overall, I think it's a lot more promising than was expected. Also, the horse thing is still one of the funniest goddamn things. Horse.
I hate you all.
Also,
It's so emo.
I mean, it's the White Knight's ride aspect, except evil.
Let's just keep going.
Keep fucking.
So,
It's so emo. You should play My Chemical Romance.
Shut the fuck up. Okay.
Also, personally, I find the Nettie Frida merit kind of hilarious because they're gonna think you're an infernalist. And you're just like, I'm definitely
You
not.
pop back up in flame. Haha. They're like,
It doesn't work like that. You turn to ash in front of them and resurrect inside of your haven.
That's so much worse.
So you're gonna show up to murder them, and they're gonna go, "What the fuck?"
No, forget you. Just show up to court.
It was like, you can choose between your haven or the Elysium. And anyone who chooses the Elysium is the most extra motherfucker who wants to be murdered.
Nah, fuck
Okay.
you. I'm on a throne.
I interjected a whole bunch.
Jim.
Yeah. No, I just think it's some of the funniest stuff. There are obviously some merits that are just dumb, but you're gonna get that anywhere you go, or with anything you look. Also, APOC mechanics do not belong in Masquerade. And mic drop.
So I had the one thing I wanted to talk about, and then Josh Songer said something that resonated.
When I was no wrong thing.
Which is, when I was going into this, I felt protective of BNS. The BNS Masquerade system is the only system to this date that I have thought was a genuinely good system. Not a system that I could make good through modification. Not a system that I could have fun with if I excuse this mechanic and that shitty setting decision. But a genuinely good and interesting and engaging and fun system to play in. It was excellent. The core book was gorgeous. It was beautiful, mechanically simplistic, and dynamic. I loved it. And I hated the idea that anyone was going to change the rules. I had learned the rules. I'd come pretty close to mastering the rules. I understood them about as well as anyone, I think, could understand them. And adding to them felt like sacrilege. It felt like taking this beautiful, perfect, complete system and violating it, tampering with it. I do not love the rules that have come out here. I think there's some really good ones. I think there's some pretty bad ones. But most of them, I say, whatever. It's fine. And that's about as close to an endorsement as I can get. Joe joked about it before, saying that the lackluster statement I had in the beginning was the closest endorsement that I'd ever given of a system. But I kind of think that he is right. That the fact that I can be ambivalent about a modification to this game that I love is the best thing that you can say about it. That's it. What I primarily wanted to talk about with my last couple of minutes is infernalism. What is the point of infernalism? There are two goals, right? The first one is what we've talked about a lot tonight. To make sure that you are uncertain. The guy next to you, or the guy across from you in the Primogen Council, the person in your pack in Sabbat, anyone that you speak to, could be an infernalist. Their entire purpose could be to burn the earth to the ground and salt whatever is left. And that deception goes deep. The other purpose of infernalism in this game is to allow you to play that concept. The person who wants to destroy everything. And I don't think anyone in this chat does not understand the appeal of every once in a while they just want to cut loose and murder everyone. Or get caught trying to. Because both can be a lot of fun. But infernalism in the core book was broken. It was bad. Broken is the wrong word because that conveys something that is too good to exist. It was non-functional. It did not belong. Because if you were an infernalist, A, your powers were bad, and B, having your powers was an auto kill. You were murdered on sight. If anyone suspected, there were many ways to check, and they could kill you. What this system did is it took infernalist powers that were bad, made them a little bit better. It's not a huge buff, but it's a little bit better. But the main thing it did is it took infernalist powers that were already good or okay, and it made it harder to detect them. What Masquerade is a game of politics and horror. How much of each of those you will look for or enjoy depends on your perspective as a player. And I'm not here to tell you why you should be playing this game. But whether you are looking for politics or looking for horror, the most powerful tool in order to fill either of those is uncertainty. You should never be able to know what the person across from you is thinking. You should only ever be able to guess. And the fact that now, through Bali merits that we didn't quite get a chance to talk about, and daimonian techniques that hopefully we will, being an infernalist is a tricky game again. It is something that you can be careful and subtle about. And I will probably never play an infernalist. I will probably never play a Bali. It's a cool game, and I do enjoy the burn it to the ground character archetype. There are just things about that specific archetype that I don't quite enjoy. But I will play Masquerade with 1,000 times more vigor and enjoyment, knowing that anyone might be playing that character archetype. So with that, I'm very glad that you have tolerated our presences, and I thank you for joining us.
Next time, we will talk about stealth cards.
Stealth card!
Stealth card!
It's the worst thing I've ever read, and I want 10 of them. Thank you all so much for watching. It was really a lot of fun. I had a great time. You apparently watched this for 4.5 hours of fucking. So you at least had an okay time. We'll be back probably tomorrow, maybe the next day. Life is weird, and we're going to talk about techniques, and it's going to be a fucking trip. Until then, stay drunk.
Stealth cards.
Stealth card!